What's up, brother?
What's up, Mike?
What's up, man? How we doing?
You're good and yourself?
Good. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, man. You mind if I connect my headphones?
Yeah, go for it. Whatever you gotta do. I feel like a scrub. You and my other buddy I had on the last episode, he does a page. It's called White Belt MMA. You both you guys had like the logo pop up like right when you joined, and I'm like, damn, I should do that. I should set that up. It just looks official, you know?
Like on the when Zoom comes in.
Yeah, like you had the Infinite Ballers logo pop up. My other buddy, he has literally like a white belt, like jujitsu white belt. So it like just popped up, and I was like, damn, making me look like a scrub.
That's nah, man. What's your logo look like? I don't remember.
It's literally just like it's almost like a Looney Tunes sort of style
Oh, Looney
logo
Tunes,
where
yeah.
it's like the circle,
Yes.
like my face.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
All right, hold on. Let me see. Can you hear me?
yeah. I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Yeah, cool. Perfect. Perfect.
Cool,
No,
man. Cool.
I am all set. Perfect.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Have you been wicked busy with Infinite Ballers and stuff?
This week, especially because it's April vacation week. So we ran a clinic with another program called a Complete Footballer, and so I was with them Monday through Thursday, yeah, 8 a.m. to 12:30, and then um, I I recently joined a club, and so we train in the evening. So it was a heavy week, but normally it's not that heavy, but but it's so much fun with the kids, man. What are you drinking?
Protein shake, man. That's why I didn't
You-
send you the invite earlier. I was at the gym and I had to take a quick shower because it smelled like ass. So I had to make a quick shake on the fly.
At the 600 club?
No, I was working there earlier, but I usually work out closer to home. You know what I mean? Just because like after work, like I'm kind of spent. So normally I work out around like this time because I'll go home, like do a little bit of schoolwork and stuff, and then just go to the
Yeah.
gym, get ready to go to
Bro,
bed and what everything.
I can't I cannot work out in the evenings. Like it has to be like nah. It's if I don't get it in before noon, it's impossible for me because I'm just so tired and like I feel like I've done so much, even if it's just emails.
Yeah,
Um, so it's hard for me to get any type of physical activity unless I get invited to play pickup. Um, that's different. But
that's a
I
different.
can't.
That's like a different jolt. Like anytime, especially when it gets nice out, like right now. Like if somebody invites me outside to go play sports, like it doesn't matter what it is. It's like I don't know. It's just a different vibe, you know.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like
No,
yeah, like
and
I'm game.
yeah, yeah. And I try to like I'd rather play pickup than just go run. I don't go to any gyms actually since the pandemic. Um, I realized that that's not an expense that I need. I could just do push-ups and sit-ups and run outside. But then I do get tired of I get bored of that sometimes. Um, so I try my best to go and find pickup games or something like that, you know.
I was gonna say it's all the power to you because I know personally, like during the pandemic, I was lucky enough I had like my own weight set and stuff like out in the yard, so I was able just to do that. But I tried doing like the body weight and like the running and everything, and it was just like I was sick of it after like 2 days. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know a lot of people that like that. It's like I don't know. It's just different, you know.
What do you enjoy about the gym? Like, is it like because you have a lot of like accessible tools or?
Yeah, there's a lot of resources, so I can pretty much play around and do whatever I want. And I don't know. It's a different vibe. You know, like when you're at like your house, there's so many distractions and whatnot. It's like I'll be like working out mid set, like I like my house. But outside it's different. I mean, like inside like my house, like physically
Yeah.
inside. And if I'm inside, like I'll start working out, and then you get to like that point where it's like, yeah, like any workout, like oh man, like I'm tired, like this kind of sucks. And then I start like looking around for like little shit to do, so I don't have to do the workout. So it's like, oh man, like that shoebox, it should be up like on this shelf, or like, I need to cook dinner, so let me go cook dinner, or like, um, there's dust, like there's like a speck of dust on this floor, so let me clean it up, and then let me just clean
Yeah.
the whole room, like while I'm at it, you know. It's like
That's
anything I
actually yeah.
can, but it's like once you go, like when I go like to the physical gym, and I love working out, but once I'm there, it's like I'm there. Like I already went on my way to get here. Like I'm gonna get this shit done, you know?
Yeah, yeah, there is something. I guess your mind switches off. There's less distractions, and that's so funny. The shoebox, because yeah, I feel you. Like if I was to only do it at home, I don't know that that I would be able to look forward to it, because like it's either like I'm right next to like my laptop or the TV, or I don't know, too many distractions. Um, so when I finish my run, I come and I just got like 15 to 20 minutes of push-ups and sit-ups, but I do end up like I do a set and then I'm like I get caught up either like reading an article that I had there, and then like I was like, oh shit, I gotta get the rest one in. Um, so no, I feel you. I feel you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of like Mickey Mouse shit. Like even like when people are at the gym, like I hate when people are on like their phone all the time at the gym. I I find myself doing that sometimes. Like I'll go to like change music just like real quick. And like I had to train myself not to like go through like all my messages and like all my social media, because like, I get like a million
True.
messages from, because I'm in like 4 different group chats, so it's always getting blown up. And I'm OCD, so like
Yeah.
I have to clear every notification, whether it be a text, like an email or Facebook, like
Yeah.
whatever. Like I hate just seeing like the red
Yeah.
notification.
I feel you.
So I had to
I feel I
be like,
actually
no, like don't fucking touch it.
no, I that's interesting because I haven't gone to the gym in like I don't know. I went a couple times to 600 Club, because it was just convenient on what my day was gonna look like. But
Mhm.
like to be a member of a gym and go there, because I remember like I used to go to like Planet Fitness like 6 years ago, um, and I mean social media was active, but like now I see so many people just making videos at the gym. I feel like if I went to the gym now, like that would be like every part of the gym somebody would be doing. I don't know if I could deal with that.
Yeah, yeah, I hate it, especially when like if you go on like a busy hour, it's already packed as it is, and then you got people taking like 70 years doing like 2 sets because they
TikTok,
have to
Tik
record
with
every set.
plus TikTok. Yeah,
Yeah, plus TikTok.
yeah. You have
Uh,
TikTok?
I have TikTok, but not like a personal one. It's just like for my podcasts and stuff, you know.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
not really. I've never been like, even back when there was Vine. Like you remember Vine?
I remember hearing of it, but I wasn't
Well, Vine was like the OG TikTok. It was basically like the same thing, just
really.
even shorter videos. They were like 20
Okay.
seconds.
Yep.
So it even back then, like I wasn't a huge fan, so I never really got into TikTok either.
Yeah, and it takes time to make videos like that. Like I started TikTok for Infinite Ballers, or well, my sister did, because she had an assignment in school to create a TikTok actually.
Mhm.
Um, and then like sometimes I go and play around, and like if you actually were a TikToker and you make really good videos, like the amount of time you gotta do with like the little subtitles, the song in the background, the filter, it's like it's a full-time job.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, man. And
Yeah.
I think it's so funny nowadays, and I bet you know just from being around like a lot of like the younger generation. That's like their, like for us, like I feel like it was Instagram was like the big
Yeah.
new thing. And then if you had Facebook, like you were an old like parent, like you just
Yeah.
weren't cool. And now
Yeah.
it's like I'm hearing more and more like TikTok's like the new thing. And if you have Instagram, like you're old. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I have a friend, she's a seventh grade teacher, and she asked her students like, what do you guys think about Instagram? And then they're like, it's for old people.
Yeah.
And then I was like, that got me to open up a TikTok for Infinite Balls. She was like, oh damn, like I mean, you do have to adjust to the next generation, even even if you don't want to, at least if you're sending a message or if you're doing some type of business that has them to do with it. But it's interesting because that's exactly what I would think about Facebook. Like I was like, oh, I think that's more for a little bit older people. Um, so it's interesting how I wonder what's the next thing gonna be.
Yeah, it's just funny. It's funny how it just changes, you know what I mean? It's like you just gotta rapidly keep advancing and evolving with it, you know?
Yeah,
Like if
yeah.
you
I
want to keep
feel
in the
you.
game.
I feel
But
you, bro. I feel you.
like how are the kids with that program? Like how do you like what's like your goal? What's like your guys' goal with that? I know like obviously I've seen you run the program like at the club and everything, and you know, it's like the younger kids like the youth soccer program.
Yep.
Like how'd you get into doing that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So so I'm very passionate about soccer, and so I felt that there's some stuff that may be missing from the regular club environment, and so when the pandemic hit, um, I've always been very into the idea that soccer is not only what happens on the field, and you can become a soccer player, a better soccer player off the field, mentally, tactically, and so. not just tactically, but like problem solving, state of mind, and all of these things. And so in the pandemic, I started doing some sessions with the club that I used to work with, virtual sessions to adapt because nobody knew how we should react to that as coaches. And still, the players are paying a lot of money for us to just send them quick workouts. Um, and so I decided to start inviting either professional players, college coaches, and then I started to realize that there was room for a different way to educate and inspire players. And so eventually I decided, I said, you know what? I mean, I'm young. Let me go for it. And like, I already know that I feel really comfortable on field coaching, and I can do that with like the clinic that I did at the gym, small group and individual. But let me see if I can tap into a different way to approach player development. And so I left my previous club, and then I started with a curriculum. And so in the curriculum, we brought in players from Europe, and then players from the U.S., youth players and college players, and then soccer agents, and we had a we had a few coaches. And so our idea was to try to show the player that there's a potential that you haven't tapped into, because we're so busy on the on field development. And so if you just go to practice and you just go through the drills, that's amazing. That's a big part of it. But the reason that all of these players get paid so much money is because they are watching film. They are trying to understand even just the atmosphere of the game. It's interesting how the difference between what it's a team like with fans versus no fans. I don't know if you follow the Premier League. Liverpool is one of the strongest teams out there, and I feel that they've been affected the most because of the fans. Their stadium is a whole other level of excitement, and they feel like they have an extra team. So those are some of the things that Infinite Ballers wants to kind of incorporate into their minds, and even things like your relationship at home. Like that's your first teammates. If your parents, for example, just take you to practice and bring you back. Like, how can we help the player interact with the parent a little bit more, even if the parent is download an app to follow the team that their kid um, enjoys, and now you can have a conversation in the car. Like, did you see Messi had a really difficult game, or Messi's team lost? What are your thoughts? And now you feel like you're in this journey, not by yourself, and the people around you kind of are with you as you continue to develop. So it's a lot of the mental, the state of mind. Um, Tactics is huge because I feel that it's a board game. We just get to be in it, and sometimes we forget about the rules, and we teach all these drills, but if the drill isn't aligned with the rules of the game and the player doesn't fully understand it, then they're just going to do it for the sake of doing drills. So I think we're looking for a more holistic way to develop the football player, or soccer player, how it's called here. And in the end, I think, just to put the answer, I guess, in a short sentence, we want to educate, we want to connect, and we want to inspire. And so educate is to fully give them a way to see the game, that the game lives in your brain. We just happen to execute it with our bodies. Connect. We want to connect you to professional players, college players, college coaches, because that's perhaps your future self. And how can you go into the future and have a conversation with yourself and learn from yourself? And the ones in the future also get to have a conversation with their past, and remember where they were. And then just to inspire that soccer goes beyond the player stage. I think we've forgotten that if you don't make it pro, you can still be the next signer for the logo of a professional club. You can still be a marketing person for a soccer club. You can be a writer, a journalist that has to do with soccer. So there's so much more life beyond the game, and I feel like the player being fixated only in the player stage um, is an unhealthy relationship, because if you don't make it, you start to resent these years as an athlete. So that's a long answer for a simple question, but I guess I just unpacked a little bit of what Infinite Ballers is.
No, I mean it's all awesome, and you could tell just from you going on like that, like you're just so passionate about it.
Yeah,
And it's such a great concept. Like just everything you brought up, I was like, wow, like it brought me back to my days of playing sports because I played sports my whole life and everything.
yeah,
And everything you brought up, I was like, Yeah, like that makes sense. Like I literally seen people, I've seen it like in myself where you have your high hopes of, okay, like I had to grind hard on the
Yeah,
field, I had to grind hard in the gym, like you put in the physical work, but if your mind is in the gutter, like you don't have confidence, you're not prepared, you don't know
yeah,
tactics, then you're
yeah,
not gonna make it. And then eventually afterward, you're gonna resent yourself, even though
yeah,
you didn't put the entire pieces of the puzzle together. And
yeah.
that too is a reason why, sports psychologists, they make such big money, because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the game, a lot of almost any game is learning the tactics, learning the game
Yeah,
plan, watching film, studying. And people think, no, it's you work hard in the gym and you give it your all in the field, and like
yeah,
that's equates to
yeah,
success, but it's not. That's
yeah,
just only part of the puzzle. And
yeah. No,
it's
and
evident to
it,
see, like with the kids. I mean, I've seen you talk with some of the kids, obviously, like on your website and on your page, and then
yeah,
obviously in person. And I mean, a lot of these kids are like pretty young, but they seem to be far more advanced than
yeah,
a lot of kids. Like I know, like even when I was in high school, or
yeah, yeah,
even
yeah,
from college, like they're very well spoken kids. They're very polite.
yeah,
They're very outgoing. Like it seems like they could really
yeah,
talk to anybody, and that they're really committed to not only just
yeah,
getting better with the drills and stuff you guys do, but
yeah,
mentally, like their mind, like sharpening their mind, which is so important, not just on the field, like you were saying, but with really anything like you want to pursue. That
yeah,
at the end of the day, it's like the mind leads, the body follows.
a
So
hundred
if
percent,
you have a
a hundred
strong
percent,
mind, you're gonna be able to get through a lot in life, whether it being
a
a soccer
hundred
player or
percent, man.
being, a team player at work, or having good connections
Yeah,
like with your family members. And it's just that's just awesome to hear that
yeah,
you're trying to something so simple that you would feel like is so
yeah,
logical, where
yeah,
it feels like everybody should be on this wave, but they're not.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
you're trying to set that trend, so it's like it is the norm. It's a
Yes,
great
yes, as it
program.
should be. Yeah, and I mean, it's just tough because like I get it because I think the business side of thing is like you can just get them on the field and get a bunch of players. That makes you a lot of money. Just throw on some coaches and throw on a soccer ball. And it's not that it's coaches that don't know what they're doing. But like you're saying, like it's just inside of the human that needs to be happening. You need to understand how you're doing it and why you're doing it. And I think one of the main factors is I want when you're saying that these players are really good at speaking and getting along with others or going on like lives and being able to feel fine with some sort of pressure of people watching. One big thing is that I try my best to make the player as comfortable with him or herself as possible. I think um, when you tapped into this level of confidence, that the game doesn't define you, you actually define the game. Um, you can go into any room and express why you're playing, express why you enjoy math, express why you're struggling, because you know that it's not the game that is gonna define who Andres is, for example. And so now when once they go to college showcases, they're not playing to be seen. They're playing because they actually are enjoying the game and they just want to execute what they've learned at training. As opposed to I'm just here to be seen. Because then if you do wrong, your metric is gonna be like, did they enjoy me? Are they gonna give me a contract? And so I think I try to remove that so that they can play freely. And not to say don't care about the scouts, but your metric is how much you accept yourself first in any realm. And so I think this is something amazing that you do, like the podcast, because I think it's a way to stay connected with relevant uh, things that are going around. And I've heard a lot of stuff that you talk about sports, and I think we forget that as players we understand the game in a way that perhaps others who haven't been part of the game see it. And so we can share conversations in podcasts, or we can go on, and you could now with Netflix and all these other shows, like you can direct a script for Netflix based on stories that you were in as athlete. But we choose for some reason to, if I didn't make it as a pro, my relationship with the game is over. But I it's interesting that for example, when you talk about school, school has so many pathways. So like if I like math, I can be an engineer, I can be a teacher, I can be. And so like if you do bad in algebra, your relationship with math doesn't end. So with soccer, we for some reason forget that if I don't make it as a pro player, I can still derive in all these other amazing ways to express myself, make a living, and use some of my business skills, my writing skills. So I guess it's more uniting um, the human skill with whatever you've chosen to play.
Yeah, and I mean, that's just awesome. Just that's a great way to work to look at it because most people don't look at it that way. It's like, okay, I either make a pro or it's like a bust. And then afterward, you see so many people, they become wash ups and they don't ever want to touch the game again because they didn't make it. They're just like you said, they're resentful of it.
Yeah,
They feel like
yeah,
they failed. But at the end of the day, it's only a real small percentage of people who are lucky enough
mm,
to make it to the pros.
yeah,
Who's to say like you can't still work within that sport or like within that field? Like you're saying, like there's not just okay, you're an athlete or like that's it. Like you can there's so many different
yeah,
things involved in that field that your love for the game doesn't have to end. And then even afterward, you could still play it like for fun, like for a hobby, like
yeah,
you could do
yeah,
leagues, you do clubs, like you could just play pickup. Like there's so
yeah,
many things you could still do to continue that love and that passion and just keep it alive.
yeah. I agree 100%, man. And it just, I think, I think your highest level, you reach your highest level of creativity when you're doing something that you love. And so it's frustrating for me to see a player that is so inspired and creative in the soccer world only see it through a perspective of the player stage. And I'm like, yo, you can be the best journalist out there because you just lose yourself when it comes to soccer. You can be the best designer, uniform designer, logo designer, all these things that still have to do with the game. But we've created this. I got my degree and I got to go get a stable job because we choose standardization over our uniqueness, and we gravitate to predictability. So we want to make sure that we buy a home, we have a family, we have enough income for the kids. But I'm so passionate about or convinced that you're going to be paid so much more for your highest level of creativity, even if it takes longer to get there.
Yep.
But you're going to be able to be living versus existing. And I think that's, you can't put a price on that.
Well, I mean, I always say, and I my one of my old professors from high school used to always say, if you pursue what you're passionate about, then the money will come. And I mean, I always believe that's staying true, and it's always
Yeah,
done so for me. Because I mean, back to your point, if you're passionate about something, your motivation is rarely, if ever, going to lack. Like it'll always be there. The passion's going to be there, and you're going to want to
yeah,
always strive to do your best. Whereas if you're working you know, like a regular job like you hate, like it's okay, like it pays the bills, it's like
yeah,
okay, like I'm just gonna clock in and clock out, like boom, like that's it. But
yeah,
when you're passionate about something, you're truly gonna give it your all, you're gonna put your heart into it, and you're gonna put in that
yeah,
extra time. Like maybe you'll be at home, like even when you're not on the clock, and you're still gonna put in
yeah,
those hours to try to
yeah,
improve your craft and try to be, one of the better
yeah,
people in your field.
yeah. And I think that's probably why Instagram or why social media um, is um, is so successful. I think because I I think the majority of us have decided to seek this standardized life, and you don't necessarily love um, what you do when you wake up every morning. You don't love what you're about to do. And so I feel like Instagram or social media, it's almost like a vacation of our mind. And
Yep.
when you earn enough money, you work for that 2 weeks every 3 months or every 4 months or every 6 months of vacation. And that is the reason you wake up. And so Instagram and TikTok, they are a 1 minute vacation from your life. And so you're able to tap out of whatever you're doing. And so sometimes when you don't necessarily enjoy what you're doing, you're able to go and seek people that you perhaps would like their lifestyle because you weren't courageous enough to pursue that lifestyle. And so one day one guy told me, he's like, do you want to be do you want to be on Twitter or do you want to be tweeted about? And so I was like, wow, like Yeah, that's interesting. Like I much rather go seek my own my own dreams and not look for my vacations of what it could be in here. So yeah, I think we it takes, and it's tough because I've had to make decisions where like my expenses are high and I'm trying to chase this dream and I'm getting paid better here and it was still soccer related, but it didn't align with this thing that pumps in my heart a little bit
Yeah.
different, and so make decisions like, okay, I got to move out, and go back to my to live with my parents, and my rent significantly decreases, and because my income also decreased as I was starting, then I start to find a way to balance things. But waking up every morning with this drive to like, I'm chasing this dream, I'm chasing this dream, I'm working with people that have similar mentalities. Um, that makes up for it, and as you see it grow, it's it's so rewarding to see or to understand those decisions that maybe sometimes other people will be like, how can you leave this contract,
Yeah.
for just going to chase something? So yeah.
The way I always see it, people always ask, how you doing? How's work? Right? Like, are you making money, etc. But nobody really ever asks, like, hey, are you happy? You know
Mm,
what I mean? Like, they feel like, especially with our society, we get so lost where the money is the main goal. Like, that's the
yeah,
object. Like, that's what is the end all be all. But we don't decide, like, hey, maybe we can cut back on having the nicer house or the
mm,
nice Mercedes or something like that. And we could
yeah,
settle for a little bit less, but with the extra cash that we're going to have coming in, we could afford to work less or put in
yeah,
more time to chase our goals, or we can afford to take those extra vacations, or
yeah,
we can afford to spend more time like with our family, the
yeah,
things like we make that make us happy, not just to flex like down the street just to show off, the things that
yeah,
are going to make us internally happy. And maybe down the line we can go back, and once we have pursued our passions and built up our dream,
yeah,
then the money will come in and we can get these fancy things.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I agree. And like, and obviously, like, it's not like it's a perfect state of mind. You see your friends that, or I see some friends that are financially very well off, and they're on the right path to what it seems to be the right trajectory of a lifestyle. But I mean, in the end, I think I just think back like, do I have somewhere to put my head in at night? Do I have a shower with warm water? Do I have a meal? And so these are all things that the richest people also have. And so when you try to measure wealth, it's like, I have all of these, and on top of that, I'm chasing a dream and I'm enjoying this dream. I don't know if they have this, um, joy when they walk up in the morning. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But I can't look at what they have materially. But we do have the same thing. As long as I get myself my 3 meals a day, and I have a bed to sleep on, and I have a shower, with warm water, that's already another level of
That's a
wealth.
blessing right there. You
You
know,
know,
there's so many
and
people. Like my grandfather used to always say it. You're always better off than somebody else, and it's true because like I always think back, um, you know, to like when I was younger and like it was troubles like at home, or I think back to, um, kids like in third world countries and everything where they don't have like running water, clean water, or really anything, and it's like, okay, I got a roof, like you were just saying, there's a roof, there's food on a table,
yeah,
shower, and I have what's even more important is I have a will to carry on and
yeah,
keep fighting for what I believe in.
yeah. No, yeah, I agree. And it's it's tough because there's a lot of distractions out there, and it's not that it's wrong to chase a comfortable lifestyle. It's just, are you taking care of your soul, your spirit, and like, are you enjoying and you're walking through life alive versus this existing? That's always what I go to. Like,
Yeah.
I look at myself in the morning, I'm like, am I gonna live today or am I gonna exist today? And that kind of helps me go through the day.
Yeah, I mean, just like that whole perspective. I mean, that whole perspective, I mean, I just feel like it relates, like I can relate to that so much. And I mean, that's a big reason why I started doing this podcast was, I wanted to form deeper relationships like with other people, especially like you. I mean, we've met like a handful of times like, at the
Yeah,
club, but we
yeah,
never really sat down like chat like
Yeah.
this, and we probably odds are we
Yeah.
probably never would have, just based off schedules
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
But now we get
That's
to learn
so
more
true.
about each
That's so
other,
true.
and get more perspective on things, like in terms of how we view the world, how we view life. And then
Yeah.
that's just all just a plus just to put out there, and it's just all great stuff, just to share with other people.
Yeah, yeah, that is so true. I didn't even think about that because we'll say like, "Yo, let's catch up," or "Yo, we'll be in touch." But like, if it isn't for something like this, you wouldn't actually be able to connect and hear different perspectives. And I think, to be honest, like the highest level of intelligence is um well, I describe it as empathy, but
Yep.
is having other perspectives inside of you, and being the more perspective you get, the more you know about life. um just because storytelling is just what all of life is. That's what the textbooks are made of. That's what the movies are made of. And so I really appreciate this, not just for having me, but the ability to take time of the day and you just sit and you live in the moment with the person that's in front of you and hear them and hear yourself. I don't think people are can do that enough, because you could be making more money right now. You could be getting an extra workout. You could be watching, I don't know, anything that you want, but you've decided to learn from another human. That's inspiring.
Yeah, well, I mean that just goes back to, what fulfills your soul, like what makes you happy. And I've always been a big people person. So
Mm,
I've always wanted to, sat down, chat with people and, learn a little bit more about them. Because then it's not only, fulfilling where I feel like I'm helping somebody else, but I'm also helping myself because I get to learn, you know what I mean? I get
yeah,
to gain some more wisdom, more perspective, or I get to, brush up on some things maybe I already know about, but I
yeah,
may have forgotten like along the way because obviously life
yeah,
gets hectic. So,
yeah,
I mean, that's pretty much like what it's all about. And,
yeah,
I try to ask people all the time to get on here. It's same thing. Like it's never anything personal, but life's busy and stuff
yeah,
gets thrown at you. So
yeah,
you don't always get enough time, to go out and like have a few
yeah,
drinks or like get dinner like with
yeah,
people. So I mean,
yeah,
this is just like super easy to do. You just hop on the
yeah,
computer or phone or whatever for an hour or however take it, and
yeah,
you
yeah,
just
yeah,
get to chat, and it always ends up. I mean, the few that I've done so far, I've always walked away. Even people that I barely know. I feel like
yeah,
I know them like tremendous now, and it's
yeah,
like
yeah,
always dope. And then even people I've known for 10 or plus so years, it's like, okay, like I learned something new about them. Like that's crazy. Like I don't even know that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that. I, it's just there's something about the human connection that we crave inside of us. We crave to be connected, and I think we've detached from that in our pursuit of the what the future lifestyle should look like. And there's nothing like having a coffee with someone or sitting on Zoom with someone. um I think it was interesting. I asked with the clinic we did this week. I just had the boys sit down and just draw their futures on a notebook that we gave them, and it was interesting to see that some of them were talking about being doctors, and they
Wow.
were, I think, 14. And there was one talking about being a director, I believe, and having a motorcycle. And so like it's all these little things that like, yes, we're here to play soccer, but how can I acknowledge you for Mike, for who Mike is, what you represent? You may happen to be great at soccer, you may happen to be average, or but there's something inside of you that it's good to put out there and to be heard, because now he's gonna be able to, hey, I told somebody that I want to be a doctor. um I- do I want to be a doctor? And then if you do, then it was like, okay, I put it into words.
Yep.
Let me put it into actions, and you never know which conversation has changed a life. It might not have changed yours, but it might have changed the person that you were talking to or somebody that was in the room. And so creating these spaces like you have, without necessarily worrying about, oh, I gotta have a really good podcast with Andres, or I gotta learn something from Andres, or I gotta teach Andres something. It's like, yo, it's create the space and it will go from there.
So is that your real name, Andreas?
Andres.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Yeah, because most people know me as Carlos.
Yeah.
My name is Carlos Andres. But my at home I'm referred to as Andres, and so that's what I feel comfortable being called. But because Carlos is my first name in school, everywhere, like you
Yeah.
just get called by your first name, and in soccer. And so I didn't want to be that kid that every single day is like, no, miss, that's Carlos, but it's Andres. And then the more classes you have, and then every soccer team that you play in, and then so I gave up on it. But now that I created my own thing, I was like, okay, you can either say Carlos Andres or Andres, because Andres is what I prefer. It's what my sister calls me,
Yeah.
and she's the center of my life.
Yeah, because I meant to ask you that at the beginning of the podcast because I was digging through your website. I went through the link on your Instagram page because I wanted to learn more about it. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, I knew I was gonna learn more about it today, but I was just curious. I saw one of your YouTube videos and it was like, "Hey, I'm Andreas from Infinite Balls," and I'm like, "Isn't his name Carlos? Like, I've been calling this dude the wrong name. Like, I don't want to be a fucking dick, you know." I always hate like I don't ever want to be like that guy, you know.
No, I feel you. And like it's fun. Like some of the kids have adjusted, but it has to be weird to like, I don't know, where somebody like call me a different name. And so some of the kids have adjusted, and some are like, wait, what is going on? And like when I joined the new club, they put like Andres, but
Yeah,
like they know that parents told me by Carlos, so they put Andres Carlos. I was like, no, 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 no. If you're gonna put Carlos, it has to come before Andres,
yeah.
or just leave Andres. But yeah, no, it's just what I've been called at home, and like it just clicks. It's like I feel that they're actually calling who I am. Carlos, I'm a little bit more detached from it, but Carlos Andres together, I'm cool with that.
Whichever one you prefer, man. I'll call you Carlos. I'll call you Andres. Don't matter to me.
Andres is good.
All right. I mean, I have plenty of friends named Andres. So
Really?
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Because growing up in Revere, I mean, there's a lot of
oh yeah, that's right.
what you are you Colombian?
Colombian, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. One of my buddies, he's Colombian. I was good friends with him for a long time. He played soccer. You might know him. His name's
Last name.
Andres
What's his?
Amador. He went to Assumption College.
Oh yes, yes, yes. He played for Bolts.
Yep, he played for Bolts. Yep. And then
Yeah, I
him.
know. I think I know his family was close. A part of his family was close to part of my family. So
Yeah.
we and then I knew of him, and then I think I seen him play a couple times when I was working in Lowell, like going through film and stuff.
Now, is yours spelled Andreas or Andres?
RES.
Res. Okay, yeah, it's the same as him. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
Andres,
No,
yeah.
I know who you're talking about. I know exactly because he is from Revere. Um, but yeah, it's interesting because in Italy they use the A.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I
Andreas.
was
Yeah,
asking.
yeah. Which is interesting because like, yeah, because for us that's a female name.
Yep.
Yeah, but cool, cool. So that's my. You got? Do you have a middle name?
Anthony.
Anthony. Okay.
Yeah. My initial
Michael.
spell Mad. Yeah.
Ooh, how do
Mad,
you feel
yeah.
about that?
I don't know. It's like almost the
Does it
opposite of
describe
me.
you?
I'm pretty chill, yeah.
Are you
I
pretty
mean,
chill?
you know me just from talking a little bit. I'm pretty chill. Pretty
Yeah.
laid back. I don't get mad very often, but
Yeah. Interesting. Do you like? I'm guessing you prefer Michael.
I mean, it depends who's talking to me. Like my family, they call me Michael. People that know me, they usually call me Mike, or even they'll joke around. They call me Mikey. I don't really have a preference.
So no Tony.
No, Tony. Oh, like Anthony, like Tony.
Yeah.
No,
No.
no,
Yeah.
no.
No.
Most people, I don't know. Nobody ever really calls me by my middle name. No,
Interesting. Yeah.
no.
Yeah. I don't know why. I mean, Carlos is my dad's name.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, that's big shoes to fill in. So not
Do
that
they
I
call
don't
him
like it, but
Carlos?
yeah.
Well, they probably
Carlos.
start. What do they? Whether you think they start calling you Andres just to avoid the confusion, the two Carloses?
Honestly, like it, Spanish people are that I know normally are more accustomed to Carlos, so they'll just go Carlos, Carlos. And I mean, he also has a middle name.
Yep.
But no, I guess they've never decided to go for Andres over Carlos or Carlos over Andres because of that.
I know Portuguese people. They go by their middle name.
Do they do?
Yeah, yeah. Because
I didn't know that.
my ex girlfriend was Portuguese, so obviously I used to talk to her family all the time. And they every single one of them they went by their middle name. So like it'd
I
be
didn't
funny
know that.
because you know when like parents get mad and they start like calling them like their full name. It's like first name,
Their
middle name,
full
last
name.
name. Like they're
Oh yeah,
screaming at them.
Yeah.
It was one day, it was her grandmother was yelling at like her uncles and her mom or something like that. And I'm like, wait a minute, like I thought his name was John. Like I thought his name was Eddie. And he's like, no, like that's their middle name. Like Portuguese people all go by like their middle name. I was like,
Wow.
oh,
I
that's
didn't
kind
know
of
that.
cool, I guess.
I didn't know that. When yeah, I guess well, I don't know enough, but I think it's more common in Hispanics to have middle. I don't know that Americans have. Is your family Italian or
Yeah, we're Italian. Well, I'm Italian, Syrian, French, Welsh, and Greek.
oh wow,
But I'm
that's a
mostly
mix.
Italian. I'm like 67% or something like that. I did like the ancestry before because I was curious.
Interesting. Yeah, because I don't know that just like plain full Americans have middle names. Or they probably some of
A
them
lot
may
of us
do.
do, but we just go by the first name.
Okay.
I know some
Okay.
people they don't. They don't have a middle name at all. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
it's like, what's like the point? You know? But
What
uh,
is the point of a middle name,
yeah,
honestly?
I don't know.
Um,
Honestly, like I
interesting.
know back
Interesting.
in the day they
That's
used to
fine.
do like um it used to be like kind of like where like you're from. Like for example, like Leonardo da Vinci. Well, I mean that was still technically
Mhm.
his last name, but you get what I'm saying. Like the three name concept, that was Leonardo da Vinci.
Yeah.
It was Leonardo of Vinci. Like that's literally what it meant. He was from Vinci in
Oh,
Italy.
okay.
Yeah.
And they put that on their like what's it called? Birth certificate.
Yeah. That was
Yeah.
well, if they had birth certificates back
Yeah.
then. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
But that was like that's how they identified like who you were, like where you came from. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
was just I don't know how like last names in general got started, you know?
Yeah, 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 that's
Or
true.
even like because I think about that like when I'm just chilling, like you ever get like weird like I don't smoke. Like I don't smoke. I've never smoked a day in my life, but it's like a high thought. It's like who thought of like the name like Michael or like Jesus or Muhammad? It's like what do you just like whatever comes out of your mouth? Like when the first like man or woman started talking, it's like, okay, like that sounds pretty good. I
Yeah, yeah,
guess. I've never heard any words before, but like that sounds kind of cool. You
yeah.
know,
And
I'll name him that. Yeah.
it just grow momentum, like
Yeah.
Carlos, and then every Spanish person is called Carlos. You know, that's interesting. It's interesting to think about. I was gonna ask something and I forgot. Um, no, I can't remember. It must have. It must. Oh, okay. No, never mind. Yeah, and the same thing with languages too. Like
Yeah.
we're just throwing out sounds. We just happen to agree that water means water, but if I said agua, it's a different sound.
Yeah.
And if you speak Spanish, I guess we agree that that means water, but it's just a bunch of sounds we spit out.
Yeah. It's so weird how languages can unite yet divide people like the same time. It's like
Mhm,
all it is just a different area that spit out different sounds. You know what I'm saying? Like
mhm. Yeah,
end of the day, it's the
yeah,
same.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
water is still water. Agua is still. It's the same fucking
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Just a different sound originated in that area. So it was like, okay, like this is what we're gonna call it. You know?
yeah. And I wonder if if it was a an intent to be different than others, or was it an intent to have a community?
Oh, like they made up. Like they
Like
say, for example, like if Agua came first, and they were like, yeah, fuck that. Like we don't like that name, so we're gonna call it water instead.
we're gonna go with water, or maybe it could have been something like, you know what? Oh, that's really cool. Like they call water agua, and like they all look Spanish. Like we look different. Let's call it something else. So I don't know if it was like to create community or
I
to
guess. Yeah.
detach. You know, but it's interesting because what you said is so true. Like it has segregated people, but it also has united people. Like when you learn a different language, you're embracing another culture, another way of living, and another way of thinking.
That's one thing. Like I never, like that's why I always thought like those study abroad programs are so great. Like I never took part in one, but I
Mhm.
never got why necessarily like people hate other races and other like religions. Like there's no reason other than like they're different at the end of the day. I
Yes,
mean, people
yes.
usually don't like things that are uncommon to them out of like a
Yeah,
fear of the unknown, pretty much.
yeah,
Really, no other reason why.
yeah,
But it's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
when you dive into different cultures and you start to learn about them, it's like, wow, it's really not that different. It's just like a
No,
different geographical location, which made them adapt in a different way. You know, at the end of
yes,
the day, it's
yes,
like, okay, why do you eat this food? You
yeah,
know, okay, I'm Italian. Okay, okay, what's
yeah,
available in Italy? okay, there's a lot of
And if
grapes, there's a
yeah,
lot of tomatoes available, there's a lot of grains, so
yeah.
you know what I
And if
mean?
you would have grown in a different place, you probably would have turned out like the people you feel are different from you.
Well, think about
Right?
like Tarzan, bro. Like the story of Tarzan. Like this
Yeah,
dude
yeah,
grew up like with animals, so he acted like an animal. Like, but
yeah,
he was a human. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's obviously extreme. But if I were to grow up in Japan, like I'd probably think I was like Japanese. It's just
Hmm.
like it's where
And
you
you
grow
act
up.
like them, and your mannerisms are like them.
Yeah, it's
It's
all
it does it.
socialization.
Yeah, and it is interesting that there is still a human or a human
There's like a gap.
Like Tarzan still is able to remain human as much as he can be a little bit more similar to acting like an
Yeah,
animal. There's still a human instinct that remains. And I think so. Another thing that I'm involved in is so we're planting a church in East Boston, and
well, that's
that's a
awesome.
yeah. So that's a huge factor when you look at it in the sense of Christians have created such a difficult perspective, or such a we've created hard for ourselves to be accepted, because of how judgmental Christians was and are
Yeah,
have been and still are. And so it's really is really, I don't know if hard is the word, but you have to be really intentional as to like how you're not trying to segregate Christian versus Buddhism versus Jewish, and it's actually the highest level of Christianity is, can you be in spaces where all of these different come along and can chat? And even if, one thing that we talk is like, even if the word God doesn't come out in this conversation, I think the
yeah,
essence is that God would be happy as if any person can sit with a different one together and laugh and maybe fight or be angry, but know that when you leave that conversation, I experienced something with this other human. And so it bothers me when a lot of religions feel that they're not like my religion, and so I don't accept them. um because like you're saying, like you just learn to see life from a different perspective, and if I was born somewhere else, maybe I would have incorporated Buddhism and be a Buddhist. um so it's, we humans are very, um sometimes we're very close-minded, I think.
yeah.
um you
to
know
to go to that point too, that's one thing that I never got about religions and social groups, stuff like that, is they always want their following to increase and they want to grow in size and they want it to be about the community aspect of it and have people come together. But when there's somebody different that either disagrees with their views or is uncertain about it, it's almost like they like attack them, like they go at them. It's like, oh, like you're all wrong, like so now we have to like get rid
yeah,
of you, you know what I mean? But it's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
okay, you wanted them to join, so you're gonna, like, I think back to like the Crusades times where like they're going like place to place to place, like they're just conquering shit in like the name of like Christianity and all that other stuff. It's
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah,
okay, you wanted them to join you, but you wanted a way to kill them because they wouldn't join you. Like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
like completely opposite.
Yes, yes,
You
yes.
know what
And
I
so
mean?
and then it questions your initial intent to, did you want them to join you to build community, or you want them to join you so that they see life just like you? And then if the people
Yeah.
around you see life just like you, are you actually able to grow? Because if we never disagree, then I think we come stuck. And so there's this guy that was talking about, like, he hates the word, um when somebody says I believe in this or I believe in that, because the
Yep.
moment you say I believe in this, it's almost like you've stopped learning more about it. And so, meaning that you believe in that, it means it's a it's a complete fact, or is that's the truth. And then, like, in Christianity, what if Jesus, there's enough arguments that people can say that Jesus was taken out of the tomb, and so I believe 100% that he rose. But anybody that believes otherwise, talk to me about it. Like, how do you see it? How can I see this from your perspective, so we can learn as to what are other possible scenarios? And that doesn't say that I'm a less Christian because
Yep.
I contemplate, or not contemplate, but I I joined this conversation because I know truly what I believe in. And so I think we've created this space in which if you don't necessarily say what comes out of my mouth or with similar words, then my own community might see me as less of a Christian. And so I think um, we're more focused.
Confrontational.
Yeah, we're more focused on what does my community think about me, as opposed to like, can I go and learn about other communities. um and 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 yeah, like at the end of the day, like I think you should be open to any religion, race, sexuality, all of these things. Like I think God on if God is love, then if and it stops at love, I don't know that you have the right to say who is right or who is wrong. It's almost like everything is actually an opinion, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that for me, that goes back to, people who don't leave like their hometown. It's like,
Mhm.
yeah, you're still pretty much gonna be the same person from high school, no matter how much you want to avoid it, because you never got out there. You never got to see like what else is out there. You never got to meet new people. You
Yeah,
never got new experiences, new perspectives. And at the end of the day, you're probably just gonna go back like to your old ways, you know?
yeah, yeah. No, I agree. And I think every person has their you have, I think, a specific role in your family tree or your generations, like your family generations. And I think it would be disappointing for you to not have elevated your family experience or perspective if you just left it at one location. And so what would it be like for my kids to be able to have an opportunity to do something in Europe with not with soccer, but with anything in life. So it's on me to like, okay, how can I diversify what I do and be more open to learning new languages, living in different parts of the world. Not necessarily only for me, but because I want my kid to be able to experience all of life. Life is not just, I don't know, East Boston, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, that all goes back to life skills, networking, forming relationships,
Yeah.
creating bonds, like anything, all that stuff. It's all so important. And I feel like it's kind of lost like nowadays, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I think it's because we're so fixated on I have to fulfill um I have to be successful. And
Yeah.
sometimes I mean, everybody's definition of success can vary or probably varies. But sometimes I think our personal definition of success is the foundation of detaching from the collective as humans, you know. Um, and so it's a tough balance because there's a lot of pressures as to like you want to be the one that brings your family out, and if your family's been struggling and you are that hope, and you're going to go to college and you're going to make a living, but then because of that pressure to be successful in a way that bring your family out of poverty, then you forget about your personal dreams, and then you start to be so focused that you don't have time to go have coffee with somebody and not talk about anything that has nothing to do with making money, because you think that you got to bring your family out of poverty. And yeah, you have some a role to help your family, but it doesn't all depend on you. And so I think it's a balance of like being able to live with that pressure and being able to also make your own name and make your own community as you're going about, because that just makes you more well-rounded human, you know.
Yeah, exactly. It's when people get stuck in that tunnel vision where it's like, okay, I got to work, like I got to get my family out of, where they're
Yeah,
at so they can get to the next step. It's like you
yeah,
miss everything around you because you're stuck in the tunnel
yeah,
and you can't open your eyes, see, okay, like maybe I can go this way, I can go this way, or I can go over
yeah,
this, or I can go underneath, or I can network and meet like new people, and this will open up
yeah.
another door like down like the line, because there's so many different things where if we get out of our own way and decide to venture out, then it
Wow,
opens up
that's
doors
so
of
big.
possibilities.
Wow, that's so good. If we get out of our own way, that's so big. That's so big. Cause
Because life,
yeah,
when you think about it, life is simple. Like if you put in the effort and do the things that you like while connecting with other people, which is like a basic human skill, then
mhm,
I mean you'll be pretty well off, because it's so hard. You like no matter what anybody says, oh man, like I did this like on my own. I did it like my own way, blah blah.
Yeah,
Like did you really? Like we're never truly alone. Like you're getting help from
yeah,
somewhere or someone or something. Like whether it's government
yeah,
aid or
yeah,
help from like your parents or help from grandparents or help from friends or loved ones,
yeah,
whatever. Like you're getting helped
yeah,
somewhere along the way. I mean, it could even be a complete stranger that you
yeah,
met 5 minutes ago, and out of the kindness of their heart, like they helped you. Like
yeah,
no matter what, you're getting help. So with me, it was always, like yeah, like I'm getting help. So I'm gonna reach out to other people and see if they need help, regardless,
yeah,
because I always like to pay it forward. So if I can pay
yeah,
it forward to somebody else, I know it's gonna reciprocate, and they're gonna be doing off better in life, and it's gonna make me feel good, and then eventually it'll get paid back to me again. So it's like a never-ending
yeah,
cycle of life, and just being able to
yeah,
communicate with others and help each other out.
yeah. That's so true. And like when I was talking to a friend the other day about like defining your you know, what's your purpose, what's your meaning, or what's your goals, and it was like we get so caught up in these goals, and like there's this stigma, or like you got to work hard, you got to grind. Like if you miss a meal because you're grinding, like that's what you got to be doing. If you can't, no sleep, like it's seen as something good, but like it's almost like anything that's keeping you from eating or sleeping, it's actually out of your purpose, because that's what your body's actually asking for. And so we've cultivated this idea that like you got to chase these things relentlessly, and there's a good um view to the world. Oh, you got to be relentless, you got to be like, bro, like if you're missing meals, you're most likely outside of what you want to call purpose.
Yeah.
um and I think the highest proof to be grateful for being a human or being alive is to take care of yourself first, um and anytime you're losing sleep, you should reevaluate, um what am I doing, why am I doing it,
Yeah, yeah, I feel that. I was falling into that trap probably like the last 2 months
we
until
all
I
do,
just
man.
until I just to fix like I had never like because I ramped up like my work ethic like tremendously. And obviously you've been around like Dennis, like him and Jane, like they work like dogs. Like
Yeah,
they
yeah,
rub off on you, and it's not a bad thing. They have a
no,
good
no,
balance. Like
yeah,
they're doing it for a while, so they have a good balance.
yeah,
But for me, I always saw myself as like a hard worker. And then I saw them working. I'm like, damn, like there's another level to this shit. Like I can go even harder. So I was
yeah,
working hard, working hard, working hard. And I just kept like trying to grind it out like further, like up more, like
yeah, yeah,
ramp it
yeah,
up, ramp it up, ramp it up. Till I got to like the point, the last like month and a half, I was like a good night's sleep for me was 5 hours. Like I was getting like 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night, like just
uh-huh,
relentlessly trying to work. And my body
wow,
could keep up with it for like 2 maybe 3 weeks. And then eventually, you know, I started I would stop going like to the gym and stuff and like working out as much like as I would like to. And I
mm-hmm,
was slacking on like assignments and stuff because my body, I'd come home and I would just be physically drained.
yeah,
I would end up sleeping like 3 or 4 hours, like so my body was trying to recuperate sleep. And then that would tie over into missing gym time, missing
yeah,
assignments. Sometimes like I would call to work or something like that because like I just couldn't
yeah,
get up, and
yeah,
then missing
yeah,
meals. So it's crazy how much that it's good to work hard, but it's also
yeah,
good to you know take care of your body first and
yeah,
foremost, your body and your mind, and
yeah,
just kind of nurture that because
yeah.
that'll fall in line with
Yeah, bro,
everything
because
else
you may be feeling that you're getting closer to whatever you're working hard for, but you're also getting closer to killing yourself.
to getting
And so
burnt
what's
out.
the
Yeah.
what's the point of like
It's like,
it
man, I
just
finally
complete
made it
compounds.
there, and then you're fucking getting pushed down in a coffin. It's like, yeah, he made it, but
Yeah.
he didn't get to see it because he's fucking dead.
Yeah, yeah. I feel you, bro. And I think especially in the sports industry, it's like, can you get 4 sessions in? Can you get 5 sessions in?
Yeah,
The more you train, and I think so. I look up to Kobe so much, and I think like he would set up his day so that he would be able to fit in 4 sessions a day. But
yeah,
we got to know that Kobe's being paid for this. Kobe doesn't have to do any side hustle to be able to train 4 times a day. So when you are an athlete and you feel that, even college athlete, you got all these other academic demands. I don't
yeah,
know that it's likely that you're going to be able to put in 4 sessions a day. And I also don't know that 4 sessions a day means go out and come out dead. I think 1 session might have been just technique. Another
Yep.
session might have been just study and film. And so we take this so literal, and we come out of a day with which we train 4 times, and we're like, I'm so much closer to my dream. Like, no, you actually took steps backwards. um,
That was a
and
big thing that took me a long time to get because I always like when I was a kid, I always looked up to like Sylvester Stallone, like in the Rocky movies, and then like The Rock,
yeah,
like the wrestler, like but they would in Jake Gyllenhaal and Southpaw, like I was
mhm,
always big into like working out.
yeah,
So those like my guys, and they'd be working out like you said, like 4 times a day, like
yeah,
minimum like 3 times a day.
yeah,
So, but it never popped in my head until like a few years ago, like, hey, they're getting paid to do this. Like
yeah,
their slate is completely clean besides to
yeah,
do this because this is their job. Like for me,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not there. And I didn't ever thought of that. It's like,
yeah,
and to think like when they were, because everybody had to start off from somewhere. You know what I mean? Everybody
yeah, yeah,
starts at
yeah,
the ground floor, they work their way up.
yeah,
So they didn't used to do this until they made it. They didn't used to
yeah,
work out like 4 or 5 times a day because they
yeah,
couldn't because they had other shit that they had to do. But now they
yeah,
got to the point where this is the only shit that they have to do. This is what they're making money off. So now they can afford to do it. But that was
yeah,
huge. Like, I never thought of it like that.
yeah. No, and I don't think that we're told to think otherwise. I think, um, even in the, like, if you think about soccer and, like, let's say Messi or Ronaldo, we see them for about 90 minutes. Maybe they have 2 games a week. We see them for about 3 hours a week, and so we feel that what we see those 3 hours is what we should be doing to become like them. And so we play soccer, which is those 3 hours that we see. But I think it's so correlated. Like, what you don't see, it's actually the product, or what creates the see the what you do see.
Yep.
And so, are you drinking water like Messi? Start with that. If you're not, you got to reevaluate everything. Are you eating as many meals as Messi?
Yeah.
Are you sleeping as much as Messi? Because you only see 3 hours of Messi, and there has to be there's so many hours
It's
in the
24 hours
week.
in a day. In a week,
You know?
it's whatever 24
Yeah,
times 7 is. I'm not a
yeah.
mathematician, but
And so it's just like, how do you say that you want to make it become a pro if some of the kids to the clinic, like, what are you for breakfast? I skipped breakfast today. I don't know that any professional athlete skips breakfast, because that's just as important as your session. So all these things that, like, when we see it in movies, it's like, I gotta go run in the street with the music.
yeah.
Yes, but there's also another side of the story, right?
And that's why I love what you're doing with your program with the kids so much is like think about it. Like we didn't even know that when we were kids. And that's like most people think it's
Yeah.
common sense. And I know tons of people who still don't know that in their
Hmm.
some of them are like in
Hmm.
like their 30s. And it's like, okay, like you need to learn that from a young age if you even want to
Yeah.
have a slimmer of a chance to get,
Yes.
to get where the desired goal is.
Yeah.
So that's just awesome that you're trying to incorporate all that and really test like their minds, especially at a
Yeah.
young
Yeah.
age where um they're more likely to retain it.
Yeah. No, and I feel like the only way I know how to go about it is, what do I wish I would have known that I think would have gotten me a little bit closer, that I didn't get. And all these things, like what we're talking about, that we're saying, like, some 30, 40-year-olds still don't understand this balance between the grind and taking care of yourself for the grind. And so how can I start to, because if I feel like if somebody tapped that into my mind, I would have had an even greater chance
Yep.
at whatever player career I had. Um, and so how can I find a way to incorporate that into their life? And if I do that, if I help one, just one, um, understand something that I didn't understand at that age, I think I've I've done my job as a mentor, as a coach, as a leader.
I feel like, it's been around like forever. Like they've had sports psychologists and, all these trainers and everything for a long time. But I feel like it hasn't been until recently where people have, it's become normalized in a sense.
Hmm.
And even then it's not, countrywide or, worldwide where it's normalized, but it's starting to become more common where people are focusing on mental and physical health over
Yeah,
just pumping out sessions.
yeah,
And like two guys always come to mind for me when it comes to that is like Tom Brady, because he always advocates, film study, mental
yeah,
cognition,
yeah,
pliability, flexibility, like all that stuff, like water,
yeah,
nutrition. And then LeBron James, like he spends like $1 million a year just on like his body and like his mental health.
yeah. And, and the results of that
They
are
speak for
greatness.
themselves. you
Yeah,
know?
it's greatness. And so I, I think those athletes of that caliber might be a reason why the wave or the trend has been going that way, which I think is so much healthier for the human that happens to be an athlete.
Well, it's obviously you're gonna perform on the court just from putting in the work and the hours and making sure your body and mind are in shape. But there's also that fulfillment where, okay, like with my kids, I'm gonna be able to do this for years and years and years to come, where I'm gonna be an active part like in their lives. We can go out, we can do
Yeah,
stuff where some people when they retire, that's it. Like their life's over, or they are just so mangled like with injuries and bad habits where they're just gonna be fighting that like the rest of like their lives or for years and years to come, you know?
yeah, yeah. No, 100%. And I think one of the things that I tell the players is like whether you make it or not, this soccer player stage is going to end. The player stage is the most temporary stage of your entire journey. And so even Messi is going to stop playing soccer. And if you don't make it to college, then you stop a little bit earlier, but the stop in is going to be there. So how are you taking this as this is just the preparation for what comes next in your life? And Brady's way to go about it and LeBron's, he's actually not necessarily preparing himself for the next Super Bowl. He's preparing himself for the next 20 years without football,
Yeah.
you know?
What I'm still baffled at is, bring up the kids again, is a lot of them didn't say, okay, soccer player. You know what I mean? Because like I know, for example, myself and tons of other kids, that I grew up playing sports with, that was always their first thought. It was like, okay, I'm gonna
Yeah.
make it in the sport, like that's it. It's like there is no plan B. Like
Yeah.
there's no way I can be involved with the sport unless I'm physically on the field,
Yes.
And a lot of them, like, they didn't have like the talent for one, or they didn't have the work ethic, or they just weren't all there, they weren't
Yeah.
willing to commit. So for them to be able to see, okay, like there's more to life than just being a footballer, just to being a
Yeah.
soccer player, that's crazy to think of at their ages, like they actually think like that.
Yeah. Especially with the pressure of like, this is all I should be doing if I want to get there. And there are some that like they do say that this is what I would like to reach.
And there's no
But I
problem
want,
with that,
yeah,
but it's
there
you,
isn't.
you it's you got to be prepared that, like you were saying, this isn't, even if you do make it there, it's not a lifetime thing. Like I don't know what the average age of a soccer player, like an average career is.
35 at the best.
So like how many
35.
years is that? Like how many years is
I
the
think you
career
play
typically?
for, I'd say 15 to 20, and that's
I
like
mean,
if
even
you're
that, like for a soccer player, that's a long time. Like I'm thinking like football career, the average football career is like 5 years or less. I
oh
think
no,
it
the
might,
average. I was thinking about like the if you play the most, the average
no, I'm
is like
saying like
yeah,
average.
yeah, 8 to 10 maybe.
Like that's such a short span of your entire life, is 8 to 10 years. Like
Yeah,
that's like nothing. Like these kids are like 8, 10 years old, like 15, like they haven't even begun yet, and
yeah,
so many people, even when they get to like their 30s and 40s, it's like their life hasn't fully begun yet. Like
yeah,
they kind of just got
yeah,
a hang of things.
yeah. And it's a tough pathway to choose because, for example, if you want to be a doctor, you have almost 50 years to accomplish that. If you want to be a professional athlete, that timeline completely decreases. And so you have to deal with so much more outer pressure and all these things that like, oh shoot, every day I'm getting a little bit older. And so you don't necessarily you lose the actual initial joy as to why you're playing soccer and you
Yeah.
start to play soccer to meet this timeline as opposed and it's tough you make that decision you just got to make sure that you're surrounded by people that are helping you make the right decision and keeping you grounded that and that's like I'm saying like if you don't make it as a professional soccer player you could still make it as a professional footballer you just remove the player out of it but you could still be professional is just getting paid for something that you do. I don't know
Yeah.
why we've put it in all these other and so like if I get paid to go coach one-on-one I'm a professional coach I got paid for coaching. But if I'm not coaching Messi or Ronaldo then I'm not seen as a professional. And we have to find a way to show the younger ones that you can be you can be a professional in any industry. There's just different versions of this industry. And if you really love the industry, you'll find in this timeline, whether it's player stage, coach stage, marketing stage, any type of stage inside of that industry.
Yeah. I mean, it's all relevant stuff, regardless, whether
Yeah.
even revolving back to what we said earlier, like whether you're physically on the field or not, like you could still
Yeah.
be involved in the game. Like it doesn't matter. There's
Hmm.
millions of ways to be involved with the game as long as you as long as you can put your mind out there and
Yeah.
have the proper resources, but that all
Yeah.
begins when you're young and,
Yeah.
there's so many different development stages where people just end up missing and then they become
Yeah.
tunnel
No,
visioned and locked
yeah.
in.
And yeah, and I think like it's difficult when you're leaving that player stage. I have a lot of players that come to me and say like, I don't know how to stay driven. Like this was my life. This is all I wanted to do. And so I guess that's when the word infinite comes in, and like I tell them like all I can share with you is my experience, and so I didn't get to step on, I don't know, any European team. Let's say Barcelona. I didn't get to step in Barcelona stadium. Um, but I feel that what I'm doing, perhaps one day, one player connected to Andres will perhaps step there, and it might not be in my lifetime. It might take generation after generation after generation. But I might have and it doesn't even have to be through infinite ballers. But I know that one day a player that was influenced by a player that I influenced, will be standing on the field, and in essence, I'm standing in that field with them, and so it makes my dream almost impossible to not attain, because in a different body, somebody is going to be able to step and live that dream out, and a part of me has influenced that. And so when they ask me about my dreams, I have the same dream that I had when I was in high school, because there's other high school students who want to be the best player in high school. And so I haven't stopped chasing that dream. I'm just chasing it through the players that I work with that are in high school now. And therefore, even my future dreams that may seem like I will not get to in my body, I am able to influence. And when somebody gets to it, I'm still gonna make it somehow, and I might not see it in my lifetime. So that really helps me continue to be driven every day and not feel that like, what more can I physically do to get there? It's like, no, just do your part in your timeline.
Yeah, I mean, and that's an awesome way to look at it. A lot of people don't realize that a lot of times it's about being present in the moment that's, going to get you further along. Like it's the
Yeah,
everyday actions that you do, your everyday thoughts when you wake up to the time you go to bed.
yeah,
But I mean, that's
that's
just
it.
that's just awesome that, you already get that, because a lot of people don't get that, until they're way later off in life when it's almost
Yeah,
like, okay, like, what's the point now?
yeah,
But
yeah.
have you always like kind of had like that idea, like from the first time you fell in love, like with the game, that this maybe would be something you would want to do, or it kind of just happened?
Well, with soccer, yes. But I think I always wanted. I had approached soccer, um, in the way of like I have to become a professional. And then it was the moment when I stopped playing, that it hit me that I was like, wow, like the game can't define who I am. Like I have to define like what the game is. It's just one part of my life. And so using all the things that I learned from the game, how can I help the next generation of soccer players that perhaps I get to interact with? And so I think soccer, the reason I am so passionate about soccer is because it just molded me who I am. We work playing in the same field with players of different financial status, different ethnicities, different so many different things. 11 players working for a common goal. Soccer gave me an education. Soccer, I wasn't supposed to not have a legal status and be able to get a bachelor's and a master's. And so I did do things right, but I think being involved with this sport gave a lot of life to me. And so once the player stage ended, it was a decision that I had to make. And it was like, I just don't see myself seeing life and teaching life outside of this game. And so, how can I repackage the values of how I see life, how I understand spirituality, how I understand self love, collective love? How can I repackage that in soccer? um, because it's things that are at the core of the human. And on top of that, I get to do it through a sport that I love. So I think though it, I was always in love with soccer, but the player stage ending brought me even closer to wanting to express my ideas through the sport.
Yeah, man. Every single time when you bring up stuff like that, I'm like, dude, you could legit be a sports psychologist. Like if you ever wanting to move on from Infinite Ballers, or you want to incorporate that with Infinite Ballers, because all the stuff you talk about, all the stuff you preach, that's pretty much what it's all about, and
Mm,
it's always a need. Like why, like all these pro athletes, the ones that are typically on top of their game, like they have sports psychologists they talk to, like whether they're having
hmm.
a rough time, like
Yeah,
dealing with all the pressures that come from the outside noise, or just finding confidence, like their own self, their own abilities, or trying to figure out what to do, like once they physically have to walk away from the game, or the game
yeah.
walks away from them, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and that's an interesting thing you say because I've been thinking about that, and sometimes I feel like when I pick my majors, and I'm straight up, I picked it because it was an easier major that would allow me to play more soccer, and so I was like, now I'm like, man, I should have done psychology or psychology, and I even consider like, should I go back, and I think I may go back too, and it's not to, you don't necessarily need it helps. I
It
think some
helps.
people
You
say
don't
I'm
necessarily
not,
need
yeah,
it, but I mean, even what you're
yes.
doing, you have viable experience, you know?
Yes, yes, but I also don't want to be like, oh, I have it, I don't need the degree. Like the degree is actually to help me learn and become better at it.
Yep.
So it's just
Fine
this
tunes.
balance between, but I have considered, and I think when because I'm involved with the church, it's another place in which I have to help others understand the reason of living, and I think understanding the three things that we crave are belonging, meaning, and progress. And then how can I express those or help people understand those through soccer and through real world? And so I think psychology would be something that would really help me. Um, but yeah, I just think my passion and my love for the game has allowed me to see it in such a holistic way, and I think my values as a my spiritual values also add to this um, infinite or greater perspective, which is at the end, like you were saying, like it's just simple, it's just simple things from life, like having a shower with hot water and a bed, and that's psychology. Like if you're
Yeah.
able to understand that's wealth, um it helps you live more with more gratitude.
Yeah. I mean, that's the base level on the hierarchy of needs, you know?
Mm, yeah, yeah, yeah. And
But
I don't know where we got it wrong. Like,
I mean, that's why I love doing this too so much is, it starts off something as simple as asking like, what do you do like for work, or,
mhm,
how is like this like done, like, Infinite Ballers. And it evolves to so many different things because
yeah,
I mean, like we were saying, the worlds and everything in it is so interconnected and so different yet the same, like at the same time,
the same,
that
yeah,
I mean, anything can connect into like the next thing. It's like all pieced together. It's
yeah,
all woven into a tapestry.
yes,
Like it has a
yes.
place. Each thing has its place on that tapestry.
Yes, yes, no, I agree. Everything is woven, and so like when we're seeking our dream, we forget that there's other dreams out there of other humans, and like sometimes we need to we crave meaning as to why am I sitting in this room and talking to these people, like it's not adding any value to me. You are there because perhaps you're part of somebody else's dream, so be okay just living that part of their dream, and you it might also be part of that dream that you're chasing, you just don't know enough about it.
The way I see it too
So
is it
yeah.
only doesn't add value if you think it doesn't add value. You know what I
Mm,
mean?
that's
It's
good.
like whether it's you're there as like you were saying, to add meaning to somebody else, or somehow it adds meaning to you. I mean, the meaning could be a multitude of different things. It could be a new perspective, a new skill, it could
Yeah,
be a new knowledge, it could be just as simple as giving somebody the comfort of knowing,
yeah,
hey, like there's an ear to talk to, like at the
yeah,
time, just to get stuff off like your chest. Like there's so many different
yeah,
things and values that
yeah,
just having conversations and being with people adds. And I feel like a
yeah.
lot of that too is also lost a little bit with
Hmm.
technology, and then further kind of lost like with the COVID and everything, where people were kind of away from each other for so long.
Yeah. No, that's 100% right, and it adds how genuine you live in the moment, because then you're not looking for something out of any conversation. You're not looking for something that's going to add value or get you closer. It's a stepping stone. I think one thing that so like for me there's this part in the Bible is the shortest verse, which is Jesus wept, and it was about when he went to I think it was resurrect Lazarus, And it was like the guy that knew that he was gonna raise him from the dead was able to stop in time, knowing what he was gonna do after, and just weep with them. And I think that was just one of the highest acts of empathy, to be able to sit there. And sometimes people don't need a solution. Sometimes people just need you to sit and weep with them or laugh with them, regardless of whether you agree with not. Like, I'm sure he knew, like, yo, I'm Jesus, I'm about to resurrect this guy, why are you crying? Like, no, let me sit on it with you, um
And
and I
again, that
think,
plays into the
yeah,
connection and the bond. You know what I mean?
yes,
Sometimes that's
yes,
that's something that is so hard to put a number on, or it's
mhm,
just like intangible. You know what I mean? It's something that it's irreplaceable,
mhm,
and there's no way to quantify it. It
yeah,
kind of just happens based off our actions and our emotions, you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And yeah, I agree. And it goes so much further, that essence. um that's when you become, um infinite, when you're able to be in these rooms. And I think they might remember more Jesus for, like, them, like, we'll remember him because he rose Lazarus, but I think the people in that room will remember Jesus for crying with them, maybe more than raising this guy, um from the dead. And I think one thing that we use a lot in, when we talk in Infinite Ballers, our curriculum, is that we have the privilege to become infinite. um I mean, look at Kobe. Like, Kobe is still around, and he's dead, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately. And so we have that ability. You are able to remain here in other people's minds and essence, and you also have the responsibility to keep others infinite, as we have kept Kobe infinite, right? And so is that fine balance between, I'm becoming infinite and keeping others infinite, because the next is going to do the same for me. And I think that's so powerful when you talk about the connectivity, is that
Connectivity. Yeah.
connectivity of humans, and it's all together. It's all woven together, for to
Yep.
use your words.
I mean, heroes live forever, legends never die. That's the old adage, you
That's
know?
it. That's it.
Legends are
That's it.
infinite.
There you go. There you go. Legends are infinite. Infinite ballers.
Yeah, buddy. I mean, I love the concept and everything. So I'm glad that, I got to learn a little bit more about it. Cause I mean, just peeking around, I mean, obviously you don't get the full story, just
Mhm.
peeking around on Instagram and then on like the website and everything, as you never truly do until you get engulfed with it and you have
Yeah.
conversation. I mean, that's with anything. But um, yeah, I mean that's just like an
No.
amazing
No.
concept. I'm glad that you're
We
doing it
yeah.
and you're so passionate about it. You can just tell just the way you talk.
Yeah. No. Thank you. And it's only been around for 9 months. It feels
Yeah, it's
it feels
crazy
more.
because I
Yeah.
I mean, I would have never guessed that until you said it when we were talking. I would have thought like this has been around for a few years at least.
Yeah, no, no, it happened. We started our first curriculum July 21st. And so sometimes you're like, oh, why is this other people doing better than I? And I was like, yo, relax. 9 months and you've created something that, um, can actually dwell in people's minds and hearts. Because as a human, like, you got to be honest, like, as much as even I have all these ways to see life, as a human, sometimes you also get overwhelmed and you want more. So you got to work. And if I can't teach myself how to do these things, I can't teach the kids. But yeah, man, and at the end of the day, like, it's called Infinite Ballers, but if I fail at Infinite Ballers, the message is not gonna fail. I could do it through, I don't know, another profession, or through ministry, or, if I go and, I become a math teacher. And that's something that helps me. Don't be tied to Infinite Ballers, because then that becomes like soccer. Like, soccer starts to define me. Infinite Ballers can't define me. It's the message that, myself and my peers are bringing. And so that keeps you so grounded.
Yeah, I mean, just throughout this talk, I mean, that's like another point where it's eye opening like to me because I never really thought of it that way either. I've always had that self concept where I'm going to carry my own essence and my own compassion and
Mm,
ideals, wherever I go in life. But I feel like I've always had because it's a need, it's a belongingness need. You almost have like that need to belong to something and be
yeah.
have your name to attach to something. But
Yes.
if we just live free spirited and just bring who we are wherever we go, whether we're in that thing or not, it
Yeah.
it truly is like it's freeing and it allows you to almost be more of like yourself because you're not tied down to like an institution or an
Yeah.
ideal. And if that ideal somehow disappears, then a part of you
Yeah,
disappears, you know?
a
You can
hundred
still
percent.
live on and keep going.
Yeah, 100%. And like the idea of belonging, when I was talking about it with the other guys that started this with me, came out of, we're like, what is it that the soccer player craves, or what is it that um was one of the biggest struggles? And we started to think about, like, we call it here tryouts, but like is when you go and try to showcase yourself, and it's that feeling of nerves, and it happens in a job interview and any other aspect of life, when you have to showcase in front of somebody who you perceive knows or is in a higher level than you, whether it's a coach or anybody. And so we were like, okay, so let's picture this. Let's say I go try out, Andres goes to try out I don't know, let's pick any school. Let's say Boston University. And so I go there, and then like I'm nervous, I'm anxious, I'm overwhelmed. But what if Andres had a relationship with Messi? And maybe we didn't play together or any of this, but like if I step on the field and I know that I have a good relationship with the highest, the best player in the world, I walk in there with a different energy. I walk in there not to be defined by all these coaches, simply because I know Messi. And I don't know if Messi may think that I'm good enough or better than to make it be you, but there was this crave that I belong somewhere greater than this soccer field. And so I was trying to find a way to, how can I build it in a way that we have professional players be involved, youth players. And so when these youth players go out there and they feel like they have to perform, they're like, wait, I belong to this community and they have accepted me, and I don't necessarily need the acceptance of all these other coaches, because this guy that plays at Champions League level, I'm friends with him, and and you kind of detach that. And so hopefully you go into all your highest level of where there's the most pressure, and you feel that I'm just here to play, and I have somewhere that I belong. And maybe I'll belong here too, but maybe I won't, but that won't define me.
Yeah, and again, that's such a cool concept because it again ties into so many life skills like networking and having confidence in yourself and your own
Yeah.
abilities, and being able to form these relationships with other people regardless of status or
Yeah.
race, religion, or
Yeah.
just anything in general, like social class. It doesn't matter. Like
Yeah.
through your program, it doesn't matter whether you're a beginner, a
Yeah.
professional, or intermediate, or you just
Yeah.
involved like because you love the game. You know what I mean? You're able to connect with all these different people and form bonds and meaningful relationships that are likely to last a lifetime.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And it doesn't take, it actually doesn't take soccer, on field soccer skill to become a professional footballer, unless you only define it with football player. So you can actually become a professional footballer in any part of the industry if you love the game. And if you learn that at a young age, I think the sky's the limit, and you start to enjoy that player stage even more, um, knowing that it doesn't end there.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. I had this book out. It's one of the books that I used to read for school for psych, well, and
Oh yeah, what
sociology,
is
but
it?
this is it's called The Champion's Mind. It's
The
by Jim
Champion's
Aframo,
Mind.
but it's all
Huh.
about sports psychology. So I'll pop it back up again for you.
Is it interesting? How great athletes think train. Wow. Okay.
So almost everything you brought up is pretty much like in this book. So
Okay.
it was just interesting to hear a lot of those same concepts from, this is a professional. Like, this guy is a PhD. He's
Ah.
he's worked with a lot of
What's his
top,
name? Jim?
Jim Aframo.
Jim Aframo sounds familiar.
Yeah, so he's worked with a lot of top level athletes throughout like the world, and a lot of the stuff like you brought up, he brings up like in the book.
Interesting.
So it was just crazy to think like this is a guy with a doctorate, and you have been able to master a lot of the same concepts. But obviously, I mean, you work with a lot of a younger clientele, obviously, with
Yeah.
because you work with like with kids, and that's fantastic. But at the same time, I feel like it's a lot more challenging because they don't have a full grasp on life and
Yeah.
really like what the world is. So
Yeah.
it's almost like you have to beat it into them. Whereas
Yeah.
like maybe these guys, the pros, they kind of get it off the bat, but they were never really taught it at the young age. But
Yeah.
what you're doing, it may be a little harder, and a little bit more
Mm.
tedious because you have to
Yeah.
keep, because obviously they're not going to know. It's life
Yes.
concepts that people take a whole lifetime to master in a lot of
Yeah.
cases. But for you to be able to start them off at such a young age with such a good base and
Yeah.
foundation that'll eventually build off into lifelong success,
Yeah.
long-term success. I mean, that's just like tremendous work that you're doing. And I mean, I bet you go to sleep like
Yeah.
feeling real good about yourself every night, just being able to do stuff like that, it's awesome.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. And yeah, that's the age group. And thank you for that, because yeah, it is um honoring to be able to teach some things that are at a level that I even perceive are higher than what I know. But the most difficult part is finding a way to bring this mentality that kids at that age, it doesn't mean anything to them. And I think, how can you repackage it for it to matter to them today, when they're on TikTok, when they're in school, when they're playing video games? Because if you can't adjust it to them, it means nothing. You can have the best message in the world, and if you can't adjust it to the person that's listening to it, you're talking to the air.
Yeah,
And
it's
so,
just
and
all
then
lost in communication.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. And so it's one thing that I try to work on is to remind myself that if I can find a way to repackage the message to a 7-year old, or repackage it to a 60-year old, then that means I don't understand the message well. So it's on me to
Mhm.
be able to fully understand this, because the simplicity as the of the message, like we've talked about, is there. You don't have to add too much to it. And so if you're not able to adapt, then maybe you don't necessarily understand the message. And that's something that I've dealt with. Like sometimes I'm like, I just said everything that I feel about how you should perceive, and this kid didn't get it. And it's not the kid's fault, it's my fault, because I didn't adjust well enough. And that pushes me to, what are different ways to send this message?
Yeah, and I mean that's all interesting to think about because, obviously, like from an outside perspective, like even for myself, before having this chat with you, I was like, oh, this is a soccer program. He's just like a coach, but he's trying to like bring the kids together. But now, at the end of it, like I realized, okay, this kid, he's not only just a coach, he's a coach. He is a borderline sports psychologist. He's a teacher, a mentor, a learner, obviously, because you're still learning yourself,
Yeah.
and you're also almost like a spiritual guide. Oh,
Yeah.
and a connector of people as well, because you help them network and learn all these
Yeah.
life
Yeah. Yeah.
skills. So it's like a job of many trades at the end of the day. But everybody will just see it as, oh, he's just like he's a soccer coach, he's a football coach,
Yeah. And I think that's a good way to think about everybody. Every time you walk into any place, knowing that this is not just the guy that trains me for, I don't know, Orange Theory is one of the type of styles, or like the bike thing, and we see an
Yep.
instructor for an hour. How can you find more value in this person that's leading you? Because anybody that's leading you is probably a mentor, a spiritual leader, a parent. And so I think sometimes we undervalue the person in front of us, because they have this simple title, of just a soccer coach. And also be okay, like some people may
Yeah.
miss it. Some people may just see me as a soccer coach, and that's fine, as long as I know, like you're saying, when I go to bed and I evaluate, was I the best version of myself? And if yes, then I'm happy. And even if not, I know that I'm going to try again tomorrow.
And that's a great point that you brought up, because so many people, they get lost on, say for example, you're in Stop and Shop and they fuck up like bagging your groceries or whatever. It's like, oh man, like this stupid bagger, like, piece of
Yes.
shit, you just get flipped out. It's like, okay, like,
Yeah.
but what if that bagger was also,
Mm.
working part-time as like a bagger because they're a teacher and they teach like your son? Like you just never
Yes.
know who, like
Yes.
what I'm getting at is you never know who in life, maybe that wasn't the best example, but you never know who in
No,
life
that's a
is.
great example, because that pisses anybody off. Like
Yeah.
you fucked up my bags. Like you had one job. We see
Yeah.
it like that. You had one job, but this guy might have just came from, I don't know, teaching a bunch of kids. This
Or
guy
he's,
might have just came
yeah.
from helping his parent who is going through chemo, and you're like, you know what? Like the bag has nothing to do with the definition of this person as a human.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, people fit so many different roles and they have so much worth besides where they're at or what they're doing in the present moment. You know what I mean? It may just be,
Yeah.
a part-time thing or something they're doing like just to get by. But a lot of people wear many hats. Like when you think
Yeah.
of even like frontline workers, like nurses, doctors, firefighters, like nurses, they have to deal with the pressure of being a nurse, a doctor, a firefighter, which is already strenuous enough. But then they may have a family, they may have to support, other people. They
Hmm.
may be, doing trade
Yeah.
work or doing outside work. They may be a community worker, so a lot of it gets lost in the
Yeah.
present moment of, all right, like, they fucked up,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
or,
My
um,
eggs.
you know,
Fuck.
like they're doing like something lousy and,
Yeah.
let me just put all this hate on them or take out my own
Yeah.
hate on them. But it's like at the end of the day, they're people and they have
Yeah.
many different roles and niches where they fit in and,
Yeah.
they belong to, and they needed to be able to, I don't know. It's almost like they need different outlets for different
Yeah.
things throughout their life because not
Yeah.
everybody is just like one single. It's not like we wake up and we do one thing throughout like the day. It's,
Yeah.
for example, like, you wake up, like you go to Infinite Ballers, but then you also have like your family to take care of and,
Yeah.
any type of schooling like you may still be doing or you're going to
Yeah.
pursue doing. It's every person in a way is a jack of all trades or a jack of many
Yeah.
trades. They wear many hats, but everybody looks
Yeah.
at it as just one single
One.
track. Like this is all they do.
Yeah.
This is all their worth is.
Yeah. No. And I think it starts with you yourself being aware of that because a lot of people are gonna miss it. And so if you yourself um are constantly reminding yourself of how good of a job you're doing in so many hats, like you make breakfast for yourself, you're a cook. you know,
Yeah,
you make lunch
exactly.
for
Yeah.
yourself, you're a cook, right? You gave somebody a ride, you're Uber. you know? And so like sometimes when we undervalue ourselves, then we expect others to show us that value. But if you walk into the room knowing I play all these hats and I'm so confident about all these hats, and maybe I'm better at them than others, than some of the other ones, but I'm proud of myself, then you don't put this pressure on the other person to acknowledge them. And so I'm not coming out here saying like I do this. Like at the end of the conversation, Mike ends up saying, you remind me of maybe a teacher or a mentor, and it's just from me being who I am. I'm not here to teach anything. I'm just here to speak of who I am, which I think I love when you're able to break a human into multiple roles. It's when you diversify yourself, um, and it all is to make others better. I think.
Yeah, and I mean that goes back to a lot of like what we've been saying is the more genuine you are as a person, the more typically likable you are as a person, and the more likable, the more you like yourself as well as a
Yeah.
person because you're not lying to yourself, you're not lying to other people, you're not trying to be something you're not.
Yeah.
Then like at the same time, it makes forming connections so easy and it helps you connect
Yes.
that person maybe to somebody else. Like you were saying, like, oh, like you remind me of like one of my teachers, blah, blah, blah. And then
Yeah.
from there on, the gears just start moving. It's like, okay, like this is how
Hmm.
he is now connected to this part in my world, which is connected
Yeah.
to this part. It just goes
Yeah.
around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It
I
the
feel
the
you.
the way that connections are made within small groups, like one-on-one or small groups or communities,
Yeah.
it makes a huge difference in how connections are made throughout the entire world. And you start to
Yeah.
realize when you break it down, there were a lot more alike than we are different.
100%, bro. That's a huge way to think about anything. Anything. Anytime when they mess up the bag, you're very likely to also fuck up the bag.
Yeah.
you know?
Because I go to the self checkout a lot, dude, and I always fuck up the bag. Always. I always fuck up the bag. I
I
don't know
always
how the
fuck.
fuck people do this when there's like 20 people at Market Basket, like trying to get the
Yes.
fuck out of there, and half of them are like giving them shit over bagging bread with eggs or something. I don't know,
Yeah.
some stupid
Yeah. That's
shit. You know
why
what
I
I mean?
never use a self checkout because I know I'm gonna end up hitting the button. Like, help me work this thing, and then they're gonna come be mad at me, and like we'll both fuck up the bag. And so, I feel you. But yeah, no, I think it ties into like one way that like I've learned to see my spiritual life, and so I had been taught so many times to like this reverence to God, and like it's almost like I owe God something because he gave his life for me, or God almost feels bad for me. Was like I learned to understand that like God actually loves me because he's in love with my potential. um he's in love with who I can become. And I think we missed that part, that like I should love myself the way God loves me, that God is still has you on earth because you have so many skills, and he's so excited to see what you're going to do as a human. And for some reason, if God is that excited for you, why should I be so hard on myself? Because I fucked up the bag. Or and then that takes it to when they fuck up the bag, God still sees this person as potentially the best person who ever worked in Market Basket or in any other area of their life. And so if you see everybody with that potential, man, I don't know that you can segregate each other as humans or judge or and
Man,
I just think humans have infinite potential.
I love that idea of potential like so much. Like just because like for example, and I don't I don't like wish ill will really on anybody or death or on anybody, but we see so many like great, whether it be politicians or leaders or athletes or actors or anything, they pass away at a young age, yet we still have
Mm,
people who maybe in and out of jail or might have drug problems or family problems, so be it. And I always find myself wondering, like, why did like we decide it was okay for these guys to leave us, these great
mm,
people to die off, usually at like a young age or like a tragic
yeah.
way. But we have these people who just keep fucking up still here.
Mm,
And
mm.
that may have been the best solution that I could think
Ah.
of to that question to me is, well, they still have potential to come back from it, and they still have potential to change the lives of not only themselves as people around them, and to
Mm,
contribute in a level of greatness that these people who have passed away already have. You know what I mean? Like they
yeah.
already reached that level of greatness. Their work was done. That was
Yeah.
like their potential. Like
Yes.
they were set in stone. They had nothing else left to prove. But these
Wow.
people who have had a hard time, face a lot of bumps in the road, they still have tons to prove, and that's why they're
Yes.
still kept here
Wow.
with us. You know?
That's so good. That's so good at looking. Like, wow. I spit it out there, but you put it into into an actual live like question that everybody does ask, like, why is this person gone and why does this person still have a chance at life? Wow. That's that's good. That's so good. Uh, and I think yeah, I mean, the other thing is like sometimes we get mad at God, like
Yeah.
why did Kobe leave at 40? Um, and I can't imagine his wife and kids not being angry at like the world and God and everything.
Not even like just for him, like especially because the daughter died too, and so did
Yeah,
like her friend who was
and
like
and
her
the
also
people
her age.
we
Yeah.
do a horrible job of remembering there was other humans in there,
Yeah.
right?
There was a
Um,
pilot, there was the other family with the other little daughter too.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and so that's a whole other in-depth conversation. But like I think as going back to our interconnectedness, it's like we choose to blame God for a lot of things. And for example, let's say Mike is driving. Mike is an excellent driver. He puts his seatbelt. He goes the speed limit. He never touches his phone. And then Andres is a horrible driver. He doesn't care about anything. I'm always texting, driving, doing a million things. We crash. You die. I live. And then God, why did you let this happen? But we've missed that we're put here as humans, and as humans, we're accountable for each other. And so, as a human, Andres, I let another human down. And although you did everything right, you are still connected to my decisions, you know? And so,
Because sometimes it's a
it's,
push too, where you've been fucking up, but now it's okay. Maybe this is like a wake up call, and I'll reach that potential, and I'll be able to go on and do something greater that maybe just Mike alone couldn't do, but now
yeah,
me with Mike, because now we're
yes,
intertwined, like we're connected,
yes,
we're pretty much a combined force. We'll do
yes,
something like maybe we'll be like an advocate, or we'll start like an
yeah,
outreach program or something
yeah.
much greater than
That's huge.
both of us.
That's huge. And it works for the good and for the bad. So if your circle has some there's some decisions that perhaps don't align with yours. For example, not being able to hold each other accountable for like how do you drive with texting, or like somebody's not holding you. If my parents are not holding me accountable for that, I'm more likely to get in a car accident and hurt somebody else's life. And in the same way, when you collaborate ideas, it's just too interconnected for us to think that we can make we can reach our purpose on our own.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, man.
Yeah, man.
Bro, I enjoyed this so much. I can go for days. Anybody that
Yeah.
just enjoys a good conversation, picks my brain, picks his own brain, learns in the moment, brings out. I learned so much. Like that thing that you just said about potential and how to see it in the real world. That's gonna stick. I journal a lot. I'm gonna be journaling about
Yeah.
that.
That's awesome. I used to journal for a little bit. I kind of got out of it. I used to do that with experiences in life just to kind of like reflect on things or just like thoughts that pop in my head. Or I used to do it a lot like when I would dream because I'd have like crazy dreams
Mm,
and I would just write them down and it kind of sparked me to have like more like cool like dreams and it further got me to control my dreams more and more to
yeah.
a state I was like pretty much lucid dreaming for a little
Mm,
bit. So
interesting.
yeah, it's all
Damn,
interesting
that's crazy.
stuff when you
Yeah,
do
yeah, yeah.
stuff like that. Oh, it has an effect
Yeah,
on your mind.
I'm so fascinated by dreams. That's something that I would like to learn more about. Because sometimes they're so aligned with something that happened in my day, and sometimes they're just like,
And
what's
you
going
miss
on?
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But
But
yeah,
if
no,
that's
I
something you're
always,
interested in, like definitely start journaling about your dreams. Like when you wake up, like just
yeah,
write what it could be something like small. It could be something like, oh, I made a sandwich.
yes,
I don't
yes,
know.
yes,
It's
yes.
weird because it just
No, I
sparks
feel
it.
you.
It's like I don't know. It becomes instead of just being a dream, because a lot of times I feel like when we think of dreams, it's like, okay, like I'm not really alive. Like when you're dreaming, because you're not physically present in that moment. You're kind of on rest, like you're on
Yeah,
cruise control.
yeah,
But when you start to write it down, it becomes a living thing where you can start to get more control of it. And that's what I
yeah,
found when I used to do it.
yeah, and yeah, we're not actually, yeah, yeah, we're actually alive even when we're sleep. We have to be alive when we're sleeping,
Yeah.
and I think everything happens in the mind. Like sometimes we feel that if it's not materialized, it didn't happen. Um, Actually, what happened in the mind was the first step for it to be materialized. Yeah, journaling is so powerful. It's so powerful. It's the first step to putting it out there. I agree with that. I agree with that. And that might be why everything. I feel like everything has to do with the script. Like even when you think about all these great films and like whatever you see was scripted at some point. Even a podcast, like we got to have some sort of theme. How do I run it?
Dream it to achieve it.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Dream it, write it, achieve it. Somewhere along
Yeah.
those lines.
That's the missing link. Dream it, write it, achieve it.
Yeah, that brings it to life. Yeah, because actually we went in the curriculum we're talking about um, that we ran. It was rationale, curiosity, and freedom. And so curiosity was aligned with dreams. And sometimes we live in this dream circle that I want to do this, but it never actually becomes a reality. And it's getting those action steps. And we went into like the I Have a Dream speech. And it was like Martin Luther King had a dream. And racism is still gone, and it's on us to turn that dream into a reality. And the best way to do that is to turn your dream into appointments. When you have a doctor's appointment, there's nothing that's going to stop you to like you have an appointment to get there, you
You
and
gotta
somebody
get there.
else, right? And so like if I have an appointment with Andres at 30, I am not gonna get stuck in a conversation with someone here because I gotta get to this appointment. And so the dreams that I have, if I put appointments, turn them into appointments, then I'm actually able to remove the distractions along the way. And so like Martin Luther King started a dream, and it's on us to turn it into a reality. And we have still come short of that because we still see all of these things, but we look back like, oh, we should be like Martin. No, he started it. Let's take it from there, make it a reality, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point for sure. I mean, that goes into a lot of, goal setting, you know, when you have a set goal and you put a timeline, you put a stamp on things, it's like, okay, we got to get it done here or it's not going to get
Yeah,
done. It's like with the
yeah,
appointment, it's like, this is the date, this is the time. If we don't get it done, then,
yeah,
I mean, you
yeah,
completely fucked up.
yeah. I feel you, and that allows you to not only get rid of the easy distractions, but the the harder distractions. Like if I get a call from, I don't know, let's say Revolution, or I don't know, let's say Barcelona, and it's like, hey, Andres, we've got this role for you. I was like, hold up, you got the right number, but at the wrong time because I'm working in my own project right now. I gotta go goodbye. And so
Yeah.
that comes a little bit harder when some things seem more prestigious. Are you willing to continue that appointment and not shutting the doors? Because like you call the right number, but just the wrong time. Not yet, you know.
A lot of people oversee that too. Is a lot of life is, you know, you can do all the right things, you can, you know, be comfortable with yourself, be comfortable with your surroundings, blah blah. But if the timing is off, and that goes anything, it goes with a job, it goes with a
Mm,
relationship, it goes with a career, it goes with school, really making a purchase, meeting the right people in order to get you to like a certain level. Like if your timing is off, it's
mm,
it screws everything up, because a lot of
yeah,
life is luck and timing. You know, obviously the harder you work, you know, the luckier you usually tend to get,
yeah,
just based off of, I don't know, it's some
yeah,
weird algorithm that just gets put out there. It's like you work hard, you do the right things, and usually you get lucky and you end up that your timing from doing those things
yeah,
puts you in the right position at the right time.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so
No, I
much of
think
it is
actually I
timing.
have it. I think I have it up here. I go work hard and be nice to people, and I think that just that puts you in control of time almost.
Yeah.
You know, because if at all times you're doing those two things, um, I think you're headed in the right direction.
I mean, a lot of the times, if you know, if you're not going out of your way to do the right things and be a good person, and you know, just find fulfillment not only in your life but other people's life, then you lose out on a lot of meaningful connections where, hey, you know, thanks for chatting with me, like let's go out like to get coffee, and you know, I'm gonna bring like my friend like with me, or for something like that, you know. And it's like then you end up networking and you end up
Yeah.
having a connection that may help you out like down the line. So like that's why I always say like always be nice to people, because you never know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No.
It's like it's important. It's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice. You know,
Oof.
that's like a quote that
Yeah.
goes around all the time. You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great quote. Say that again.
it's important to be nice, but it's nice to no. It's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice.
That's great. I had never heard that quote.
That was
Um.
Mother Teresa, and then The Rock always says it now. That's like
Oh
one of
yeah.
his favorites. Yeah, because I love The Rock. That's like my guy. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
I remember watching him in wrestling, and then now he just
It's weird because I was a
took over.
huge wrestling fan as a kid, but I was never that big into him just because of his character. I always liked the guys who went against the mold. Like he was kind of like a kiss ass kind of guy.
Ah.
But it's not to say I
Yeah.
didn't like him. I liked him. I enjoyed him. But ever since he became more of like an action movie star and more of like a personality than just like a
Yeah.
wrestler, like I love the guy. He's like my favorite guy
Yeah.
on the whole planet.
Yeah. 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 No. I've seen. I know. I've seen more of the movies with he's with Kevin Hart. Um.
Oh yeah, those are
You
hilarious.
know. The
Yeah.
Yeah, and it goes to show that like I think they've branded themselves each other very well. Like they used you. I mean, for me, sometimes when I see one, I kind of think about the other one, and they're both really inspiring stories. And one has more, one started with comedy, and the other one started with wrestling, and they're in the same movie, you
Yeah.
know.
Well, that was a
So
big thing that you know, Dwayne the Rock Johnson said when he first got into Hollywood, was he tried so hard to fit the mold that Hollywood wanted for him, where
mm,
he was like a real like stoic, quiet, like strong guy, because that's just like kind
mhm.
of how he looks like, and you know that's kind of what they
Say
want him to be. But he's transformed himself where it's like, no, like that's not who I am. Like I am an outgoing, like funny, charismatic person, and I can do that and I can replicate that on the screen, and it's going to be successful because it's genuine to myself. It's what I'm
yeah,
passionate about, and like it's what motivates me. So again, I mean that goes back to what we were saying earlier, where you stay true to yourself and true to what drives you and what motivates
yeah,
you, and the success and the money is going to come eventually. You know what I mean?
yes, 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 100%. And yeah, I think we lack self-love, man, and I think it's been corrupted by selfish. We call it selfish, and so we're afraid to self-love. But I think that's the first step to take care of the collective. If just taking care of yourself, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's so lost in society with you know, everybody engulfed in the technology and everybody wanted to be the next get rich quick type of guy, you know. It's like
Yeah,
what
yeah.
can I do to make money quick, you know?
How can I go viral? Yeah,
Yeah, how can I go viral? Wait, what's
yeah,
the next big TikTok?
yeah, yeah. No,
It's
I feel
crazy.
you, bro. I feel you, bro. But yeah, no, this is such a rich conversation, man. Um, how often do you do them? Every week or?
I try to do multiple a week, but I find a lot of people they kind of bail. You know, I feel like
Oh
they
yeah,
over. Well, so I reach out to a lot of people, like whether it be friends, family, like random people, like on Instagram and stuff, like that I
yeah,
may have only met like one time or whoever. But I don't, you know me, I can talk like to anybody. So it doesn't matter who I'm talking to. I'll find some way to
yeah.
talk. Like no way in hell. I bet you didn't even think this is gonna be almost 2 hours. You know what I
No,
mean? But
no, no. I didn't know if I don't know what the time limit was.
But
Um,
that's like the beauty of it though,
yeah,
is it's just you form that relationship and that connection. You get to learn all these dope
yeah,
new experiences and concepts, and it ends up
yeah.
just being a great time regardless, you know. So
Yes, yes,
uh, I
100%.
try to do multiple a week, obviously with like my schedule permitting. But
Yeah.
I find like this week I was supposed to have 4 or 5 people,
Hmm.
and you're gonna be the only one this week because they pretty much all
Okay.
bailed out. Like usually it's like the day of, and it's like, yeah, I don't want to do it, or like, you know, I something come up, and I'm like, dude, like it's supposed to be geared towards,
Yeah.
you know, just a casual conversation. Like if we like literally, this is something like we would say, like if we were like out in like public, like getting coffee or something like that. Like
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
just pick each other's brains. Like that's literally how
Yes.
people
Yes.
interact. You know what I mean? You ask questions and you give your own opinion, and then you try to learn more about the other
Yeah.
person, and you get an enlightenment, you know. So but everybody overthinks it. They think it's supposed to be like this
Yeah.
big, like,
That's
you
good.
know,
Yeah.
proper thing, but it's
Yeah.
really not.
No, no, no. It's like, how can I learn about Mike and shit
Yeah.
about who I am now? I guess the because podcasts have gained momentum, it's become more intimidating. Um, to think of, oh, I'm gonna be in a podcast, the world is gonna hear me. It's like, no, Mike is gonna hear me, and I'm gonna hear me, and that's it. Like, don't worry
Yeah.
about other
Like
things.
if this ended up being a thing where, okay, like this is just me it would be like the best way to put it, when we go out of our way to make phone calls to family or friends just to check in, see like how they're doing, and
Yeah,
I mean, I bet you've had them all the time, like whether it was like a girlfriend or something, you call in just to check in, and it ends up being like a long conversation. You catch up,
yeah,
and you form like a deeper bond. I mean, this is
yeah,
what it's initially intended to, and
yeah,
then really the only purpose for it to even be posted online is just so other people can see, like, okay, like this is a different perspective
mm,
about a person you may not know about, or a person like,
yeah,
but like for example, before this, I would have never known any of this stuff about you.
yeah,
But then like if I saw somebody had a conversation like this with you and they posted online, I'd be like, wow, like Carl seems like a really cool dude. Like I would legit, I'd go out and I'd go get like a beer with him, or
yeah,
I'd hit him up if I want like to play pickup soccer, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Something like that.
yeah,
Or if
yeah,
I need somebody to help me through like getting over certain things or wanting to network. It's
yeah,
just like you get to build a special community
yeah,
with this, where you learn new perspectives and new ways of thinking from other people that you may
yeah,
not have reached out to before and got to get that same enlightenment, you know?
yeah. No, I agree. I agree 100%. And you putting it out there allows other people to see more of Andres' perspective and of Mike's perspective. And there's gonna be one person out there that might it might hit home with them.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think, like, if it hits one person, and it might not happen in the next 2 years. I think some of the people
Yeah.
that go viral, their old content is when they've done old good content, and it hasn't, they haven't felt that it hit home. But once they go viral, some of their old content is actually better than their new in the spotlight type of content.
Because it gets
And in the end, yeah,
commercialized, you know?
yes, yes, yes.
A lot
And
of
so
people don't get
yeah,
that either, too, is, you know, they want the TikTok viral video, or they want that instant gratification. But, you know, when you do things
oh my
consistently
god,
for the
yeah,
long term, it
yeah,
ends up being more enjoyable because you get to live present in the moment and take it each day. And
yeah,
then eventually down the line, like we were saying, you do what you're passionate about and everything will come together.
yeah.
It's like you have long-term happiness instead of an instant gratification that eventually just disappears.
Bro, that's a word that's one of the most harmful feeling. Instant gratification. Nothing that brings instant gratification is necessarily gonna get you gratification.
Yeah.
You know, And it's like some guy said it one time. It was like, you can't show your wife how much you love her in one night. Like, no matter what you do for her or how you treat her, if you do it one night, it means nothing.
Yeah.
If you're not able to repeat it, or when you brush your teeth, like if you don't brush your teeth every single day, like I brush my teeth tonight, it's not going to change anything. I'm gonna wake up tomorrow and be like, but is the amount of times that I've done it for my lifetime that it keeps my teeth there, you know? But it's those little 2 minutes, 3 minutes of brushing your teeth, and like you want to have white teeth after one. And we know that that's not real. So why do we understand that with such a simple thing, but not with business or sports or anything else? It's like the process, every single minute, every day, you know, have joy in that, passion in that, enjoy the bad moments, you know. Um, but it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, I mean, and that's just awesome that, I mean, it just goes to show that, you know, these kids, I can already tell they're going to be in good hands, like inside your program, just because you're able to not only communicate these different concepts, different aspects, but then you can give real life examples and you can apply it. So, you know, I mean,
Mm, yeah.
in layman's terms, like you can make it as simple as possible or as complex as possible. So
Yeah.
anybody from any demographic, any age can understand and apply
Yeah.
it and better themselves, you know? And then that
It's
also
such
helps
a
you because you get to get more experience of it working with so many different people, you know?
yeah. It pushes me to really feel that I understand the concepts. And like it happens a lot with religion. Like everybody wants to use the words of Jesus. And it's like when I ask you to can you define the word happiness for me, and you use the word happiness to define happiness. Is like, do you actually know what it means, you know? And so like we want to use when Jesus goes on with parables of like the fig tree, and like you can't be talking about fig trees right now with someone that is like, maybe the fig tree is Instagram. Let's talk about Instagram, and something that's relevant, because Jesus was just being relevant to his moment in time. And but we feel that it's what he was saying in that time that we have to say now. And so you sit and talk with somebody about religion, they're gonna fall asleep, or they're gonna be, yo, let's talk about something else. I don't want to know about I don't know, donkeys and walking in sandals. Like, you know, let's
Yeah.
talk about Yeezys and all these other things, you know? And I think that is the real gospel, being able to adapt to the present. I think that's what Jesus did at a whole other level. We're just stuck that
And to
because,
read a
yeah.
room too, you know?
Yes,
Like
yes,
you can't
yes.
always hop in expecting to get your point across the same way every time. Like you have to be able to connect and adapt to different people and know like what's going to get their ears to perk up and then be able to
Yeah,
listen and understand and respect what you're going to say, you know?
yeah. And you also, you can't even go in thinking that you're going to get your point across, period.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you're there to get a point yourself from them, you know?
Or maybe you're just there just to spark the gears into motion, you know?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I was thinking earlier when you were talking about MLK and like his dream and stuff is Tupac. I mean, I love Tupac. I always love Tupac, but a quote he always said was, I may not, you know, I may not be the mind that changes the world, but I may be the spark in
Mm,
a mind that changes the world. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
he may spark the mind that changes the world, even if he doesn't physically change the world himself, you know?
Yeah. And I think when we want to be the mind that changes the world is when we get it completely wrong. Nothing that somebody will always do something greater and better than you. Um,
That's
you
just part
know,
of evolution.
this is part of, yeah. So there's so much power in being okay with just being the spark.
It's
Actually,
like
the
in
spark,
sports too, you know,
yeah.
you see a record that nobody thinks is going to be broken, and it gets broken eventually because everything evolves.
Yes.
It gets eventually just going to get better as time goes on,
Yeah.
technology gets out, and people get
Yeah.
more educated.
And that's why, I mean, I try my best to go on the idea of infinite. Like if you're chasing the temporary stuff, even the records that take hundreds of years, they will be broken, and you will be forgotten for your temporary records. Um, you can tap into the infinite state of mind. That's that's gonna keep you around.
Yeah. I mean, and also people will likely remember how you made them feel or what you did for them more than the things like you did and accomplished like on your own or,
Yeah,
you know, or you got sole credit for. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like think about it, like
100%.
like when you hear people tell stories of like great men, it's usually like, yeah, he did this for, you know, like um I don't know, like for example, like Lincoln, like they always say, Lincoln freed the slaves, blah blah, and it's like if you're a black person, it's like, oh my god, like he helped set things in motion, like for my ancestry to get like where we're at today. So like they remember
Yeah,
him because of what he did for
yeah,
them, and it resonated with them, it was an emotional connection.
yeah,
But most people, they don't always remember him for, oh my god, he was a president, which is like an astounding accomplishment, like
yeah,
in itself. You know what I mean? They don't remember him
yeah,
for that.
yeah. No, I agree. I agree. It's so important to know that is that relationship. It's, can I help you feel like you belong? Can you help me feel like I belong? Can I help you find meaning? Can you help me find meaning? Can I help you feel that you've progressed? And can you help me feel that I've progressed? If you hit those three, which is our intrinsic cravings, um, like right now, I feel a sense of belonging because of our relationship. I feel meaning with the podcast and ideas coming back and forth, and progress because I've learned so much from hearing you. And so every time that you find those three with yourself and with people, doesn't matter if you're a president or if you help the slavery movement uh, end. You know?
Yeah, it matters that you're a person and you're actually going out of your way to make somebody else feel like they belong and they're also a person. They're connected to you in some way.
Yeah, 100%, 100%, man, 100%. Do you do so when you post? Do you try to have like a consistent like weekly posts, or like for example, if you would have gotten all five people to show up, it would have been like, that would have been like 5 weeks worth of podcast, or would it have been all
No,
one week?
just whenever it happens.
Whenever it happens. Okay, how long does it take to cut in?
I mean, with this, I don't really do much of anything, to be honest.
Yeah,
I just kind of keep it as it is. It's just kind of genuine. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So
yeah,
I don't, I don't cut it. I don't trim it. I know like with my sports podcast, like sometimes I'll add in like pictures like of players and highlights and
yeah,
edit.
yeah, I
I'll
seen that
put like memes and stuff. But like with this is more just like it's about the
conversation.
words. It's about more so the words than what's
Hmm.
going on. It's about the connection. So
Yeah,
um I just leave it as humane, I would say, as
yeah,
possible.
as
So
uncut as
as
possible.
uncut as possible, because that's what it is. It's literally like none of this is scripted. You know what I mean? This is just like
Nah,
we're
no,
just
no,
generally
yeah,
having a conversation. So I try not
yeah,
to script anything. I try not to edit anything. I just leave it as it is, and
yeah, just let it
people
go.
just take it as they take it. They
Yeah,
hopefully they get to learn some new perspectives and everything.
where will this one live?
So I put this on YouTube. You know me, because it's an easier platform than the other one,
Yeah,
just because it's free, obviously,
yeah,
so everybody can watch it. And then I put it. I was telling you before when you were talking about your podcast and stuff. I put it on that Anchor app, and then on
Anchor, yeah,
Anchor they distribute it to like Apple Podcasts,
yeah,
Spotify, Google Podcasts, like all those other
cool,
platforms. So
cool.
I mean, people can listen to the audio on there, and then they could physically watch us talk
Physically watched.
on the YouTube, or just listen to it like in the back. And then
Cool,
obviously, I'll post about it like on the Instagram and on the Facebook and everything.
cool, cool. No, that's cool, man. That's interesting. I'm trying to learn more. Like I said, so many things going on, but I started now with the lives. That's almost like I'm using that as,
Yeah,
um,
live works good too.
yeah, um, podcast prep. Um, for the future, I think it helps me be on camera, helps me be better at asking questions, um, receiving questions. Having people getting that feeling that even if you have no followers, you have that feeling that somebody's gonna watch.
Yeah.
So just coping with that and improving in that stuff.
I mean, a lot of the times, what I find people try so hard to do, and it's another thing that goes back to what we were saying. People try so hard to fit in and feel like they
Mhm.
belong, and then they lose
Yeah,
that sense of genuineness
yeah,
and
authenticity.
individuality, and yeah, authenticity. Where that's like what people are actually looking for. Like in a world where everybody's trying to
Mhm.
fit in,
Yeah,
everybody's trying to be like the next trendsetter and everything. Everybody just wants the bare basics of human connection and
yeah,
um just like something genuine, something that people
yeah,
actually are passionate about, people care about. So again, like if
Yeah.
you just pretty much just stick to that, which you will have no problem with, then you'll
Yeah.
find success doing that. You know, in a
Yeah.
world where everybody's wrapped up in technology and trying to be the
Yeah.
next, TikTok.
Everybody's trying to, yeah. Everybody's trying to dress themselves as the unattainable future when everybody just wants to see.
Everybody wants to be the
Yeah.
next big thing instead of just being the next themselves.
Yeah.
Just instead of just being themselves, I should say. There's no next you. It's like this
There is
is
no
me.
next. Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
It's like the debate
Yeah.
people have all the time like in sports. It's like, okay, like Kobe Bryant was the next Michael Jordan. It's like, no, Kobe Bryant was Kobe Bryant. Michael Jordan was Michael Jordan.
Yes.
No, it's
Yes.
it's all about
Yes. And yeah.
individuality and what you can do to find your own purpose and to be purposeful to other people in this lifetime,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. 100%.
Again, that goes back to the potential that you were saying, you know?
Yeah. Infinite, infinite, infinite. And I guess when you say that, it brings the word unique. Everybody has infinite and unique potential.
Yeah.
And sometimes they overlap, but there is uniqueness that you have to believe. I think one of my friends said, like, we have a greatness to reach, and nobody else can get there, and nobody else can take you there either. And if you don't get there, the world misses out of something that you could have done great.
Well, think about it. Like, if you just to go back to that point, if you bring up twins, like identical twins, for
Mhm.
example, yeah, you may look alike. You may have a lot of like the same interests and likes and hobbies and everything, but you guys are different in your own unique ways. No
Yeah.
matter how alike two people may
Yeah.
be, that's another thing that's beautiful about us is we're unique in our own different ways. We could add our own insight and perspective to
Yeah.
realistically anything, no matter how close you are living
Yeah.
together or talking or anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you're
Yeah.
always
And
going to
I,
be shaped by
yeah.
different experiences.
Yes. Yes. And that's another thing that we lose. We lose our uniqueness, our authenticity in the real world. Like, I want to be like this player. That's in soccer. And then you lose the authenticity of what Andres could bring to the table as a player. Or like if there's coaches that I really look up to. And so like if I incorporate a lot of what they have in me, it becomes a difference between imitation and admiration. And sometimes we imitate the people we look up to, and we are just retelling their story through a different body, as opposed to, yeah, I admire you, but that inspires me to tell my story in my own way. And I think, again, you go back to like, are you living or are you existing and telling somebody else's story? And I think we all have such a unique story to tell, but it starts with us. Can you believe that? You know?
Yeah, I mean that's something I throughout like my whole life, it's always kind of been there. I've always wanted, you know, to be able to be out there and tell like my own story, and then down the line, I always want to be able to reach people in a certain way and have such a impact on them that they'll eventually tell my story to generations to
Hmm.
come. For all
Yeah.
the right things.
Yes. Yes. And they will. And they will. I think if you're doing it for the right reasons, they will. Even if it takes one person to take it to somebody else. And also, like, not necessarily tell the, like, when we say like tell the world, we make it seem like Australia needs to hear. Like,
Yeah.
Mike is part of the world, and now Mike knows my story. The world knows my story because Mike knows my story. So it's
And
it's
that's
tough,
another thing. I
especially.
used to get wrapped. I still sometimes get wrapped up in that. Is like I always saw, like, man, I want to be remembered like in the history books, but sometimes just a few people here and there that are close to you, like in your community, knowing you and passing it down to other people. Like
Mhm.
sometimes that's enough because then it goes back to, hey, maybe that sparks them to
Yeah,
eventually reach out to the rest of the world. It's like you
yeah,
don't have to do it all yourself. Like you can be the person that sparks another mind and then they can do it for you, but you would
yeah.
still be a part of that because you influence that.
Yes,
It's like it
yes,
doesn't always have to be
100%.
directly you, it could be indirectly through somebody else. And
Yeah.
people forget
No,
that.
we want to do it in our own body and get the reward under our name.
Yeah.
And if humanity made it to the moon, what is it? I mean, obviously, it has a lot. Like, the person who did make it there
Yeah.
should get rewarded. But like, there were so many things that happened, and people involved that allowed that to happen. That person alone wouldn't have made it. And so it's more like humanity made it to the moon. And if
Well,
you
it's like
look at
think
yourself
about the
more,
person
yeah.
who engineered the design for the ship that got them to the moon. It's
Who the
like
fuck is talking about
they,
him?
they were the most integral part of the whole trip. Without that, they would not get there. But
or that person's mom or dad.
yeah, because
you know,
without them, they wouldn't even have been there at all.
you know,
Yeah,
you know,
it's crazy.
um, it's crazy. And I think, yeah, we enjoy the hype. Where it's interesting. I heard this thing like, how many people would you have impressed in your life up until today if the world was blind? And so like we're so carried away by what we see that sometimes when I hear people speak and they speak really well, and I hear other people speak in maybe a smaller platform because they don't have a name, their message isn't necessarily out there. But they've said the same thing or very similar to this guy that's in the big stage. But I wonder if like we didn't have access to see the stages and we just heard the message. Doesn't really matter who said it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you've brought up so many good points and ideas throughout this whole thing. Like since I started doing this, I've found myself going back and watching some of these just because it's like, oh man, like that was like really good. Like it sparked like my brain and it made me think in so
Mm.
many different ways. It's like I want to, you know, experience it again. I want to
Build
replay it
from
over
there.
again so I can kind of think about it more and keep it going. Like keep that, where my mind is mentally. Like I want to be back like in that state.
Yeah.
But this one is probably one I'm gonna end up watching a ton of times over.
Can you send it to me? Like, oh well, it'll be on YouTube, right?
Yeah, it'll be on YouTube. You
So
can
I
watch
can
it
just
whenever
have
you want.
okay, perfect. Because I agree. I when we get caught up in like what's the next podcast, the next thing that I'm gonna say, like, yo, I would love to dwell on some of the things that Mike said and build from there. And I agree. Like, and the same thing with soccer. I sometimes I watch the same game 100 times
Yeah.
and I find a new essence to a
It's like film.
tactical movement. Yes,
Yeah.
100%. And I think one thing that you said is like I want to feel the way I felt in that moment again. Um, and if you are able to catch on what was the spark in this conversation, because then that spark can probably live in other conversations.
Yep, exactly. And go off into other things, and then it becomes connected.
Yeah, I feel you. This was good. It got
But
my
yeah,
mind
you could
going.
put up on YouTube or whatever you have, like Apple or Spotify, whatever.
Yeah,
Because I'll
perfect.
upload it to all there. It'll probably be up by the end of tonight. It takes like 2 seconds.
Oh really, that quick?
No, because it doesn't take long. Like, because there's not a
Because
lot
you're
of editing.
just okay.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm on my laptop right now, so it'll get saved to my laptop, the recording, and then all I have to do is open up YouTube, upload it, and then the
Boom.
um the podcast part of it gets uploaded like right away. Like that'll be up there probably within like the next like 15 minutes, depending on how
Okay.
quick I put it
Wait,
in.
so this podcast is on Apple?
Yep. So this one's
Okay.
on Apple, Spotify, Google, and a couple other ones.
Okay. Perfect. Cool. That'd be cool.
And then I always just do it on YouTube anyway, because obviously, I mean, some people they don't want to
The
pay for that
visual,
shit. So
yeah,
plus
and
they
the
like, yeah,
visual is cool too.
yeah, that too. Yeah, exactly.
Um, yeah, bro. Um, yeah, no, it was a great time. What do you do for? Did you have dinner already?
I just had the shake. I'm just gonna eat later.
Okay.
I'll probably eat in like a few
Okay?
minutes.
Okay. Yeah, cool. I was like, I had a couple meetings before this, and they were postponed. Bro, I passed out. Like, I passed out, and like, it was like five something, and then I was like, shoot, I'm gonna miss. I would fall. You ever go to sleep and you're like half awake, half on, and you got something to do.
Yeah, but then
Um,
you fall asleep anyway.
yeah, and you keep falling
Yeah.
asleep, and then I was like, I'm gonna miss the podcast. But I'm like, this is a good nap. Um, and then eventually, once it hit 6, like I had to get up, and I was like, no, I gotta get going. I gotta drink some water and get my brain to wake up. Um,
That happens to
so
me all the
I had
time. And like I'll have my phone
yeah,
in my hand, like trying to set the alarm because I know I'm gonna fall asleep. And I
yes,
just fall asleep and it never gets set.
or like when I have an early morning session, I was like, what if I put the alarm wrong? Like, what if I put PM instead of AM?
Yeah, I
Like, little
always like
little
the
things
night
like
before I set the same alarm and it's set. It's the same one. I don't change it, nothing. And every night I still have like that conscious thing, like, oh shit, I
yeah,
gotta check the alarm, make sure it's AM or PM.
yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, I do it all the time. One day I put on the alarm for a week. I turned on my weekday alarm, but I
Yep.
would have to wake up on a weekend.
Yep.
Bro, like I had to, my whole schedule changed and like my whole rhythm was off. That's another thing that like we go into training and like if that happened to me before training, I'm a bit off in my interaction with the players.
Yep.
And so like in this car ride, I have to detach from the fact that I fucked up and put the wrong alarm, so that I don't take it on the kids. But that's a whole other thing to go about. But yeah. So I guess we're talking about dinner. Yeah. So like, I don't know if I'm hungry or not hungry, but I feel like I should put something in my body. Um,
I'm always hungry, man. I eat like every 2, 3 hours.
Bro, I feel you. I feel you. Like I always can eat. So I don't know that I'm hungry now, but I always can eat. Maybe because as an athlete, I created a habit of
Just
eating
eating.
whatever, whenever. And now that I'm not an athlete, I'm like, you gotta watch that. Um, Sometimes I'm like, yo, you're hungry? Bedtime. It's free, no carbs. You just call it a day.
It's fucked. I eat more now than I ever did when I was in sports or anything, which is weird
Really?
to say. Yeah, it's weird because that's another thing. Like like when I was growing up through sports, they never teach you like the nutrition aspect and all that stuff. It was literally get on the field, get your shit in, and
Yeah.
that's like really it. Like whatever you do
Yeah.
on the field and in the weight room, like that's it, you know?
Yeah, yeah. No, and like for in Spanish homes, like if you're skinny, you're sick. Like,
Yeah.
why are you so skinny? Like, why aren't you eating? Like, what's going on? Do you not like my food? Like, are you? I was like, Mom, I'm just like, I'm fine. Like,
I
I'm
gotta be
just
able to
eating
move.
in different. Yeah, yeah. Um, and so like, mom, whenever you are with mom, mom's gonna feed you, and I think that helps. That helps them feel like that gives them meaning, purpose, progress,
For me,
belonging
that's
when
like the
they.
grandparents. They're like that.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. My grandma used to do that so much. But yeah, now mom does it. Um, but yeah, I love food. I can.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
Food, exercise, travel. That's like my three favorite things.
travel. I want to travel more. I need to
Going to
travel more.
Arizona next month.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I never
For
been.
what? Just for
Trip,
vacation?
yeah, just a trip. We try to do, me and a couple of my buddies, we try to go on at least one trip a year.
Hmm.
Last year,
This is the one.
this is our second one this year.
Let's
So
go.
last year, we didn't get to do one because of COVID. We were going to go to Myrtle
Yeah.
Beach. So
Okay.
instead, this year, we went to Florida in February. And then now we're going to Arizona next month.
Wow. Any
So make
specific
up for it.
places that you're going?
So we're staying in Scottsdale. So we'll probably chill out in Scottsdale, go like the nightlife and stuff. Maybe hit up Phoenix one day. And then we got a rental for the whole time. So we're gonna go to the Grand Canyon, like drive from there and then go to Sedona too.
That's sick. How
Yeah.
long are you going? How long is the whole trip?
Um about 5 days.
Yeah. Man, I need to do that. I need to do that. I need it. I
I
went.
love to travel. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's the
Have you ever
same thing.
been
You learn so much about different places and new people and perspectives. You get to try new foods, you know?
new rhythms, new air? Like you need that. You
Yeah.
really need that. Have you ever been to Big Sur?
No, what's that?
It's in I think San Jose or San Jose, I think.
Oh,
No,
I've been
I
in Cali.
yeah, no, it was one of the most beautiful. What is it called? It was like on one side it was water, and on the other side it was like mountains. But bro, like
That's
that
pretty
place,
sweet.
yo, it was. I never seen something like that so peaceful and so like you're so in touch with humanity.
I love scenery like that. Like that's like my favorite. Like I
Scenery, that's the
always
word I'm
say,
looking for.
like if I could go back, like Lewis and Clark days, like when they had to like map out like the west of the Mississippi, like map out like America, like see all the stuff, like because it
Hmm.
was completely untouched for the most part. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like that is like what I would want to do, like just travel, see like all the scenery. Because I like when I travel, yeah, like the food is fun, the nightlife is fun, all that other stuff. But I get the most fulfillment out of like the scenery and like the nature and just like that connection, like with the
Yeah,
earth and with like the animals and like my surroundings.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
So I love that stuff so much. Like that's like my favorite part about traveling and going to new places.
yeah, bro. I love that. I got some. There's something about like I just love the water, like not being in it, just seeing the ocean.
Yeah.
The more oceans, like in from a high perspective, I don't know. Okay, so, bro, I gotta plan something, and that, and I want to go. I've been to New York a few times, but like, I just want to. I haven't been there in a while, and New York is one of those that, like, for me, it's only like like a 2 day, 3 day max because New York is also overwhelming.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just a different rhythm than what I am doing here or in Boston. You know.
Yeah. It's just nice to change things up. I
Yeah.
mean, other than Arizona, I always wanted to go to like Montana and Yosemite.
Okay, I've never.
Like I don't know, it just I've never been either, but it just like seems like so nice. Like it's like more
Yeah,
so like untouched. Like it's in like the woods. Like they have like
yeah, yeah,
buffalo and bison and all this other stuff. It's just like
yeah,
a national park there. And
yeah.
technically Yosemite is in Wyoming, but it's like on the border of Montana and Wyoming. But
Okay.
I mean, everything. I don't know. I just like that rural type of vibe where
Yeah,
it's
I
like
love that.
everything's kind of out in the open. It's just free.
Yeah. And then there's the opposite, Vegas. Have you been to Vegas?
No, I've never been to Vegas.
That's electric, bro. That's a
Like
whole
I would like to go everywhere at least once, but
yeah.
like a place like a Vegas or like a New York, like for me personally, like it doesn't do like the same thing for me. Like I'd go there maybe once or twice, and like I've had like
Yeah.
my fill, you know.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. No, like I don't I went to Vegas once and like I don't feel any type of way to going back.
Yeah.
I don't know. New York has some it's the capital of the world. I think there's a different air.
When I went
But
to New
even then,
York, I loved it for Central Park because
mm,
again, it's like you're outside, it's like scenic, you're in like the
yeah,
woods, and then I
a
loved
friend
it
of mine just went and she was talking about like if I
because
had
it's
to pick
huge.
one, it was Central Park.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
I like the Statue of Liberty for like the same thing that you were saying. Like it's out on the water, like it's
yeah,
nice, you know.
yeah, yeah. No, I feel you. I feel you. I like the the Empire uh
Empire State Building.
Empire State. Yeah.
That was
I
cool.
think yeah, I think it's just so interesting because it looks it looks fake like when you're up there, you know? And
Yeah.
it's interesting to think that like humans created all of that. It's like we
Yeah.
forget that none of that was ever there, and like the amount of buildings and the height of these buildings, and like so I guess when I connect with it, it's more like it's not necessarily the lights and the building. It's like how the fuck did all this shit get created? And it was
I
like
feel that.
one of I or multiple of I or like other humans put this entire thing together. Like that's insane.
And that same connection is why people like, you know, like the pyramids, the Sphinx, like all that so much. It's like, dude, like how the hell do they build this shit?
Yeah.
And then also like places like
Oh
Machu Picchu
wow.
where it's like in the
Yeah.
middle of like the mountains and stuff. It's like how do they do
Wow.
this?
That's so interesting because we're attracted to things that we could not ever do on our own. Like there's no way one person creates that scenery.
Yeah.
And so we long for seeing this stuff that's so much greater than us.
Yeah.
Um, but it isn't because it was created by one of us or a group of us, which well, it's good. It's good, man. It's good. But all right, Mike, I think I gotta go have something to eat before it's too late. Um, bro, it was so much fun talking to you.
Yeah, I know, man. We'll definitely do it again sometime, you know?
Yeah, let me know. I think well my rhythms change, but for now Fridays are open. Even if it's not podcast, even if it's to grab something to drink, or
Yeah,
even if
I'm
it's just
always
to
down.
connect, I'm always down to have a conversation. Thank you for having me, bro.
Yeah, thanks for coming
I
on.
love.
Thanks for being the only person that didn't bail this week. I'm not even joking, dude. I legit had like 5 people. All sorry, some came up or it was like last minute. I don't want to be on it. I'm like,
Was that why you were asking me? Like, are we still on?
no, I just check with people anyway,
Okay.
you know.
Yeah. No, yeah, no, I feel you. No, but you doing it like knowing the hardest thing is knowing that you might get rejected and you still go for it. Like
I don't give a shit, man.
you don't
I
give a
just
shit.
like I said to you, the whole point is like I want to just be able to reach as many people as possible because I'm gonna be able to build deeper connections with them and also, you know, build a greater perspective and
Yeah.
enlightenment inside my own mind. And then hopefully when we put this out there and it goes out to the world, like they can take that and
Something.
relate to
Yeah.
that and also increase like their own, you know.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. This is education, bro. This is what we do. Like some people are in a university, other people are listening to this podcast. Some people can't afford the university but can afford YouTube, right? So what you're doing is as good as any university because you're putting material out there for personal growth, personal meaning, personal progress. So bro,
Even just through this, it's like I've been able to get in contact with so many other people. Like they see it on like Instagram. Like I was talking to some woman, she was from Brazil, now living in Japan, and she randomly commented on one of my things. It was like my buddy, he had a Muckle Wells syndrome. So I was asking him questions about that. And you know, because I
oh, I
wanted to
heard
learn more
about
about
that.
it.
I heard about that. I
It's
watched a little bit of that.
yeah, so that was the first one we did, but she ended up reaching out to me and I got to learn even further about it and different like variants of it and different vaccines and different treatments and then how like other parts of the world like in Brazil treated and how Japan treats you. So it's just like you get to learn so much more about other places, other cultures
Bro,
that
bro.
you
We
normally
talk
wouldn't
about
get,
yeah.
you know?
And we were just talking about traveling the world physically. Like you're traveling the world mentally and
Yeah.
in community, like you're still doing it from
And I
your
helped.
place.
She was saying like after talking with me that actually helped spark her that she wants to start up a foundation for the disease. And I was like, yeah,
Bro,
definitely let me know if there's anything you need help like getting started with that. And you know what I mean? So
it's
it's
huge.
it's cool. You
Like,
get to
bro,
know.
if anything of if that goes anywhere, you spark that. You just
Yeah.
saved lives with, wow.
So you
Wow.
never know.
You never know. You never
Yeah.
know. Bro, you're pleasure to be here, and it was inspiring for me to be part of it.
Yeah, same brother. I'll definitely be in touch with you soon. Thanks for coming on again. I really appreciate it, man.
Sounds good, Mike. I'll probably go to the gym and get a workout in or something, and or maybe just to chat with you.
It don't matter. I'll be there. I'm usually there.
Brother, take care, man.